My hands stable, I feel able to turn the tables, I could do this. Just keep moving, keep your hands up, stupid. I feel lucid, a new viewing. I can see the end, I can see my future, I can view it. It's right there for the taking. Everything I've ever wanted, dreams are just waiting. I just gotta fight for it, willing to die for it, willing to like sort of.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000, it still sucks. This is Phil J. Fry, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show, your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
You guys know what to do, just like every other podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT Show. I'm Daniel, as always, and today we're going to be getting involved and getting back into the Summer Wells case. There's been a lot of rumors and speculation that have been going around surrounding a recent search from TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, revolving around Summer Wells' disappearance. It's been a lot of things have been coming out with news media, some things that maybe perhaps we're learning for the first time, some new things, some old things, and we're going to bring all those things together and we're going to discuss it, some theories and thoughts like that. But before we start, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell. We got a couple of great guests. We're going to bring in first Ryan from Ryan Finds Truth. How's it going, Ryan? How are you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me. I switched to headphones because my mic is just flipping out on me. So
understood. You sound great, man. So good to see you. Good to see you. And
good to see you again too.
And then we also have Dr. Jamie Vona. Doctor, how's it going? For those that are watching for the first time on this case, Doctor, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, hi everyone, welcome in. I'm Dr. Vona. I am a research psychologist and a professor for the past 21 years. I know I don't look it, but I'm just kidding. I came to true crime this summer, and Daniel has really taken me under his wing, and I appreciate him for that. Well, I appreciate him for a lot of things, but especially for that.
Well, good to see you guys. Good to see you both. And so, the Summer Wells case, she went missing a little bit over 4 years ago. And a lot of conspiracies, a lot of thoughts, a lot of people have looked in one direction or another. Here recently, there's been a search on a property on Van Hill Road, the 3500 block, that is tied to, I guess his name is Paul Hill. He's an older man. And there's also been not necessarily a story, but law enforcement has been interested in a red truck since the beginning. And apparently he owned a red truck. Now he's much older. Ryan, you're from the area, correct? For those that are watching from that are new, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm from the area. I'm maybe 30 minutes from where Summer disappeared. Mm-hmm. I started out as a hiking nature channel and then started getting to local mysteries. And I started looking at missing persons cases, and that whole world sucked me in because once I started working with mothers of missing, it just strikes at your heart. And so that became my thing. I started just using my skills, started developing like SAR licensing, getting my drone license, training our dog, and we're heading that direction. This case has been what searchers call their white whale. Mm-hmm. Your white whale is the first case you ever took on. And we made the mistake, I think, of starting with one of the hardest cases in the entire world. Summer Wells is just huge. It's global, mm-hmm. and it sucked us in. And we just started talking to locals. And there has been, I don't know if you know, Dan, since you've caught up with the case now, it's been a quite a while of silence from TBI, mm-hmm. and nothing happening. So when they searched that property on Van Hill Road recently, it has just re-exploded this case into a firestorm, and everyone's looking at every single person connected to that property. And poor Paul Hill, this elderly man, just because he's the owner of the property, now everyone's like looking into him. And the great thing is all the locals jumped up and immediately said, "Nuh-uh, Paul Hill's a great man, salt of the earth." The locals are standing up for him. So, but now people are looking at others connected to the property, his sons and everyone else. So that's what's happened with this search. It's just blown this up into another round of rumors, speculation, and searching.
Now, I know that there was a tree trimming business or tree trimmers that were out there in the area of in front of Summer's home, and there's been some recent, I guess, conversation on if a Randy Hill was a part of the tree trimming that day. I know that he has apparently his own tree trimming service. I've heard some mixed things out there that it wasn't his tree trimming service that was out there trimming up the trees. I've also heard that although it wasn't, they had hired local tree trimmers, which may have involved Randy Hill. What do you know about that situation?
So it wasn't the Hill tree trimming company. They were not the company, which made me immediately think when this whole thing out related to Randy came out, I'm like, no, this is just one of those rumors. But then there was that interview that I think you've got a copy of that clip. So well, I'm assuming we're going to look at that in a little bit.
Yeah.
That mentions a Randy. There was a YouTuber who went down there and interviewed the tree trimmers. And one of them, his last name's Childress, I think, mentioned that a Randy who was part of the tree trimmings folks had seen Summer in the back of a truck on that property. And everyone now at this point, I don't think there's evidence for it, but everyone has concluded that the Randy is Randy Hill, that he's the one that worked for the tree trimming service during that day. And I think everyone's just decided that it was Randy Paul. It was Randy Hill. And I don't know that we actually have evidence that proves that, just because the guy's first name was Randy, but maybe you guys can decide for yourself if we watch that, and I don't know what you think.
Yeah. Let's pull that up. Randy is a common name, I would assume. The fact that there was a lot of hills that were going on, I would assume that the person that was trying to recall what the guy's last name was, that hill probably wouldn't have been something that would have been hard to remember. But then again,
I agree.
If these people were like folks that were there on a short-term basis, that would make sense as to why he didn't know their name. If these were folks, like, for instance, if the company was in fact indeed hiring short-term or locals to do the tree trimming, and it wasn't a set crew that had been there for a while, maybe that's why he wasn't aware of his last name. What do you think, Dr. Bona?
So first, I'm new to this case. This is my first live ever doing this, but that might be a good thing so I don't have bias before this. I think just listening to what both of you were just saying, I think what's happening probably, and I really don't know, I might change my mind after review this stuff, is that in the absence of Summer comes anything. Like, people want to know, where is she? So I think anything that comes up that's worth looking into people are going to grab onto it and at least exhaust that lane, if you will, until it doesn't reach anywhere. Does that make sense?
That does. The only thing is that this was a search including FBI, TBI, and I believe the sheriff's department. And so this search, it seems pretty extensive. It sounds like there was a lot of I don't know how true it is, but I've heard rumors of dirt being moved, several different trucks having to come in and out with dirt. It sounds like if you're going to have those agencies there, it's a pretty big tip, don't you think?
I don't know. Is this coming right from like law enforcement?
No.
See, that's the problem.
Yes. It comes from.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like in the absence of Summer, and everybody is still looking for her. So it's like there's still something, just like with Jack and Lily, right? So even someone like me will get Daniel's, interviews and try to slice them sideways just to find something out of it, because you're just trying to find something. So right. I'm just hoping that that's not hoping. I'm hoping that, at least law enforcement knows if they should look further, or if they've already looked.
Well, the media, Ryan, they're the ones that have put out there that it was TBI, FBI, and local law enforcement. That information was from them, not just from random folks, right?
Correct. So that was a really interesting series of events. The Thursday before, everyone on Scanner Food, was like, there are a bunch of TBI and other agents out there. And so that was around the community. Everybody was like, is this related to Summer Wells? But nobody knew. But there was a huge TBI and FBI presence on Thursday. And then the following week, it came out on the media. The TBI actually announced that, and they didn't just say we conducted a search. They said we conducted a Summer Wells search.
Mm.
And what's two things that are crazy about that, or maybe one big one, is the fact that they've followed up with a lot of tips through the years and they have never announced it. They've never said we're following up on a tip. I know for a fact because I submitted a tip that turned out to be absolutely nothing and I was embarrassed about it, but they never announced they were following up on a tip. They were looking at a hole or a mound in the ground, but it was never announced. And for them to announce it tells me that they have to feel very confident that it's actually going to lead to something, I think. So that's the one thing. The second thing I wanted to mention about that whole series of events is the search happened, officially came out on the Tuesday. I think it was the following week it came out. And I'll be honest, I immediately wanted to know who owned that property. And I did the whole background check, like a lot of other sleuthers online probably did. Found out it was Paul Hill, and I put it out there. I just said, hey, this land is owned by Paul Hill. Don't know what it means. And then the media confirmed it, like a local WCYB reporter went to talk to the locals, confirmed that they saw the searchers at Paul Hill's property. And that was the end of it. That was from the media. We know they searched Paul Hill's property. We know the owner is Paul Hill. But that's where it ended as far as the proven evidence. And anything else after that has been people looking for connections between who else is connected to the property and what happened on Ben Hill Road with Summer. And that's where we're getting off into left field.
When was that search again? That, like, the latest one?
Like 2 weeks, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Like, was it recent?
Yeah, it's been very recent. And one of the things that I wish I had the actual news clipping with me, but one of the things that I had seen was that in the news clipping, they mentioned that the last sighting of Summer Wells was outside of the residence. Did you pick up on that, Ryan?
So that is the weirdest thing too. Ronnie Lawson made a comment in the media saying she was spotted walking away from the home. She was actually spotted walking away from a home. When they conducted the interviews with the parents, the mother, Candace, said she went down to the basement, she disappeared, and she kept on repeating over and over, Summer Wells never walked off. She never walked off. Like, she never had the habit of walking off.
Okay.
Which we know is not true. We've interviewed people who've been there, and we know that she had a habit of, she thought it was fun to hide from people. And that's why I'm actually really, I wish we could get into that stuff with Dr. Vona, Dan, like the whole parents stuff. I mean, I would love to get her take on those interviews, but we have a limited time. So we can focus on the search.
And so, do you think maybe the kids saw her outside then? If somebody did see her outside, who would have been to have seen her outside?
You have to decide what to believe. Like, do you believe was Ronnie Lawson correct, or did he? Oh, actually, I lean toward Ronnie Lawson because when I rewatched the media clip when Ronnie said that, I recently rewatched it because I was always confused about it, and someone mentioned it again. And more recently, I watched it really closely, and he said that he heard from the siblings. He actually mentioned that in there. He said he heard from the siblings that she had walked away. So yes, the brothers must have told him that.
Interesting. Yeah, because I mean, to me, in the end, there's only a couple of possibilities here, and it's one, something nefarious happened, and the parents covered it up and did a great job of doing so, which I think is and what I mean by that is that they haven't been arrested yet. They've somehow, whatever means that they have been able to, TBI, FBI, and local law enforcement haven't been able to figure it out. She wandered off, which I'm not, which I think is possible. I'm still not completely there. Somebody who was familiar with the residents showed up there, and the intention of that person showing up wasn't maybe necessarily to kidnap Summer, but came across her and abducted her, or a combination of some things, whether she walked out, wandered off, and then got picked up by somebody else, but nowhere, maybe off of the highway or something like that. I highly doubt a stranger like walked up in there, walked into the basement, or any of those type of things. I had wondered if it was possible, because to me it seemed like the path that the dog traveled the scent through, that would be a difficult path to go down if you're forcing somebody to go with you. Have you seen? It seems like a difficult thing if it's by force, if she's kicking, if she's screaming, and so if she either went down there by herself or she went down there with somebody she knew. That's kind of where I'm at on that one. What do you think?
They call it the dog trail. So
Yeah.
It was somewhat of a trail, but I'll tell you, and we can talk about the events that happened that afternoon, but we're now educated with this new information, with the search related to the hills, where people are re-examining the tree trimmers. So I'm curious of your thoughts on, if we trust that video that you're about to show here, what he says about one of the tree trimmers seeing her in a vehicle that day, in the bed of a truck, inside a truck. Maybe it wasn't Randy Hill. It was some other Randy. Who cares? One of the tree trimmers is claiming that they saw her in the truck. How does that educate us as far as, well, actually, I don't even know if we know the timing of when they said that. Was it morning? Was it
I was going to say, when I listened to it, it sounded like it was a morning situation.
My only problem with that is that we know that eyewitness testimony isn't always very credible, just like how the brain works and stuff. So does this person know for sure that it was her, or do they think they saw her? Does anyone know?
That's a good question.
Maybe we should actually watch the clip and see what.
Let me see. Yeah.
Let's watch the clip. But before we do, last question though: were there any other little girls around Summer's age that lived in that area?
Oh, there's a lot of rumors. There was a friend of the family who had been staying there, and I don't think it was the same timing, but around that time, and her name was Journey. She looked just like Summer. There's this whole side theory about this woman named Marlena told this story, and a lot of people think that these other people were being targeted by a drug group, a retribution. It's a long story. I don't know if you want to get into it, but supposedly there was like retribution. They wanted to abduct this Journey girl. They made an accident and they abducted Summer. So yeah, there's other stories of other girls around there who potentially could have been a target, but I don't know how true that is. And
so wasn't her hair cut like a boy at the time?
Yes.
So couldn't it really be any boy or girl?
Yes. Yep.
It could be. And I just want to give credit. This is from somebody, Ziggy. I believe she's married to Fred Hill now, but this was like an interview 3 years ago, and I think this was before she was married to him, and I think this is actually right before she met him, and she's interviewing tree trimmers in the area. So I'm going to unmute it. There's a lot of background noise, so I'm going to pause it and kind of explain what I hear here and there. Okay, guys?
Yep.
Yeah, did you see anything like
No, not really. See, I got a piece of equipment department after I hollered that morning. And I didn't recognize them, but later that day, or the next day when the FBI got us, Randy brought us my.
So she says later that day, Randy, and I'll be honest with you, I had a hard time understanding what he said. Later on that, I heard Randy also. So, let me pull it back a little bit.
I didn't recognize them, but later that day, or the next day when the FBI got us, Randy brought it to my attention. God,
He said, oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. He said later that day, Randy, but he's talking about the FBI before that. I heard everything he said for some reason that last time you just did that.
Yeah, he said something about that. It was either later on that day or the next day, and that Randy said something that he recognized them.
He says something about the FBI too.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him, but later that day, on the next day when the FBI got it, Randy,
Good catch.
Later that day or the next day when the FBI.
guys used to work with him.
Yeah.
They actually stopped talking to him, but I was in the pickup truck.
They actually stopped and talked to him.
On my income.
So they actually stopped to him, and they saw the grandma and Summer, is what he's saying, and that he recognized them, that Randy recognized them.
So, and that would be someone that knows them, right?
That's a good point. That's a good
Yeah.
point. If Randy recognized them, you know, if so, the points that could lead to the possibility of this being Randy Hill would be the fact that this person doesn't know his last name. So it sounds like maybe perhaps this could be a new hire or a temporary thing, and that the person is local because they were able to recognize Summer and Grandis, I think is what they call her.
Good question. Who's talking on the video real quick?
This is a tree trimmer that was out there trimming the trees during the day of the disappearance. There was, I guess, a crew, and they were on Randy's crew. And what I understand from other information is that this tree trimmer Randy, got fired because of something that happened this day. And I think he hit a line, I think is what some people are speculating, that he had some sort of power line with the truck.
I think he says it in here, actually, a line was cut, and they actually had to fix it. So, yeah, he
Yeah.
cut a line.
And this video was taken 3 years ago, so it's a little bit older.
Well, she was in the truck. Randy said that she laid up in the back of the truck. It was
Randy said she was definitely in the back of the truck.
Laid up in the back of the truck of an extended cab. Now, if Randy, like this seems like something obviously that law enforcement would have investigated, and to be honest with you, it seems that way because we have Miss Cassandra here saying that, and this is a local person saying that she highly doubts that Paul Hill had anything to do with it. I'm sure he was questioned about the red truck because he had one. Actually sold it to my husband years ago, and it looked like nothing like the truck posted, other than it's red and a Toyota truck. It was also pretty beaten up from where he used it from farming hogs and whatnot. TBI already asked us and investigated that truck. Look at who is taking care of their boys, Summers brothers. All the media has probably shocked them into staying in now. There's been sightings of her in Bayleton area that I know of since September of this year. That's pretty weird. Have you heard of any sightings this summer?
Oh, dude, so many. They had sightings of her out in a place called St. Clair. There was a sighting on the day that the disappearance happened, or around that week. There was like a little boy and a little girl on the side of the road. We heard of a sighting in Florida that it was when we were first starting, and we actually traveled down to Florida to follow up on that. Some woman saw her in a local park. Turned out to be nothing. I've heard sightings in other states. Like there's a sighting, this guy named Chanjo Superstar up in North Carolina, I think, a campground, saw an older couple with donkeys and a little blonde girl. That's a whole side story. There's been sightings everywhere, and a lot of people are connecting Chanjo's story with Paul Hill and this family and saying that they're potentially like the older couple that was up there at the campground. But the police showed up. He called the police, and the little girl had the wrong eye color, and the police told this guy it's not Summer. But people are still kind of trying to make that connection. So it's been crazy.
I don't think she's alive. In my
there's-
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say the percentages are probably siding with that. Dr. Vona, does this seem like a little bit of deflection to you? You know, by bringing up the fact that there's a sighting somewhere else in September, like that holds any water to what TBI's search just did?
I'm not sure. I'd need to know more. But again, it could just be people that are really care and they want to find what's going on.
Right.
And so, like any little thing, if I heard something, whether I knew it was
Yeah.
real or not, I would still pass it along, because what if I
Mhm.
didn't and it was something? So, like,
Mhm.
they always say, if you see something, say something, So I don't know if it's
Well, I
like
mean, it
the
wasn't
news
her
hit.
sighting. She didn't say she had a sighting. She said there was a sighting in Balenton that I know of since late September.
But why is she? Who is she again? And why is she like inserting herself?
She is the person whose husband purchased a red truck, a Toyota, from Paul Hill. And apparently this happened shortly after the disappearance, I think in 2022. And TBI went as far as investigating the truck. So that should
she's
say,
sharing her
Well,
opinion, and people
sorry. The context of this comment was a
Okay.
larger post in Facebook. So that's WCYB reporter posted a picture of the property saying, yes, it's Paul Hill's property. And this woman commented on that Facebook post of this reporter. She was just saying, because people were talking about the red truck that he owned. So she was just posting a comment defending Paul Hill, like a lot of other locals have been.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
right. But this
So
should
then
say
it's other
something,
people.
though.
Then it's other people, Daniel, right? Group
Right.
things. So now other people
Yes.
take it and run with it.
Yes.
Right. But if they're investigating the red truck and they're investigating Paul Hill, right? Because they're investigating his truck. It's his address that was looked at. This investigation happened in the past. This means this isn't something new to them.
Yeah.
They've been
good point.
aware of this area, this truck, and his property for some time now.
That's a really good point.
You know what I mean? And so, like, what flipped the switch for them to automatically now all of a sudden search it?
Yeah.
Could it be the people, like so many people starting to speculate and stuff, maybe just to make sure that they've exhausted everything? I mean, wouldn't it technically be a tip? Wouldn't they have to?
They said it was a lead. Did they call it a tip or a lead? I know a lot of the people commenting will know. I think that it was a tip from someone.
What's the difference, just for people that don't know? Because I don't know.
I think a tip would be somebody called in something. A lead might be they've connected pieces together and they're heading in. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. That makes sense.
But a lead can come from a tip. So a tip is just basically like, hey, there's this that's going on. It kind of turns into a lead once there's something that's substantial with it that you can move on with. And so anybody can make a tip, but for it to be turned into a lead, there's got to be something substantial about it to give you suspicion or enough. Like, for instance, this search probably started off as a tip. They had some other information that maybe gave them enough to get a warrant, and then now it's a lead. But in this scenario here, something had to have switched. But these aren't new to the investigators, these folks.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are saying they called it a lead. So yeah, substantial.
Yeah,
substantial
I mean,
Yep.
to me, if you're getting a warrant, you have to have some sort of probable cause. I mean, you don't need to have the proof of burden on a warrant for a search isn't proof beyond reasonable doubt. It's less than an indictment, and you can get you can indict a ham sandwich, and so it doesn't necessarily mean that they have something super concrete. However, if they're excavating stuff and digging into the ground, I think they would. Plus, the money that has to be spent into an investigation like this, that to me screams something substantial. Now,
Yeah.
Is it something that's going to lead to an arrest relatively soon? I don't know. I would have hoped that it would have happened by now. But
Dan, after we finish this one, now is probably a good time to talk about the Jason Jennings things, because a lot of people are mentioning that tip that he mentioned about the brothers, but he also updated saying it wasn't related to the brothers. So I think that would be a really good thing to cover later as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can bring that up now. So Jensen actually spoke with Fred, and he had a post saying that Fred Hill is a nice guy and that he doesn't believe that he had anything to do with it. And he was surprised about the search as well. If that's true, I don't know if it's true or not, but if that's true that Fred wasn't aware and was surprised about the search and things of that nature, it doesn't sound like the tip came from him. But what are you thinking there, Ryan? What else did he put out recently?
So I know there was initially the tip that he said he was trying to coerce the brother into coming clean because he had gotten a tip from a brother, and everyone was speculating about who this brother was related to someone else's case. And that was before this search took place. When this search took place, everyone was digging into who are brothers connected to this property. And there are brothers connected to the property. So people started going, I think it's Randy, and they call him Frank Paul, but his full name is Joseph Frank Paul. Joseph is younger, so there are brothers connected to the property. So everyone's freaking out, saying, "Oh, these are the brothers. This was a tip." And then I think Jason put out a new thing that didn't specifically say it wasn't his tip, but he thanked the family for coming forward related to the current search. So he made it he kind of implied it was a brand new thing, but nobody really knows.
Interesting. Well, I mean, that would make sense because, like I said, it sounds like they were at least aware of them. The only other thing that kind of came to mind as well is if, let's just say, TBI got to a point where they couldn't go forward anymore, so they backtrack and they start going back to the beginning, i.e. something like Richard Allen in the Delphi case where they went back to the leads. And maybe perhaps they got some information from somebody, maybe one of these tree trimmers, and they're looking, back at their statement and something just didn't jive. Maybe it didn't click in the beginning because they were too focused in Dawn and Candace and maybe some other folks that were in the area that were looking like prime suspects. That's not uncommon in a situation like when you have a cold case for somebody to go to the beginning and something to be overlooked because there was something so glaring in the beginning. Like in the Delphi case, you had Ron Logan where the little girls were found on his property and he had gotten an alibi before, before their bodies were found. Then you had Keegan Klein and Anthony Schatz profile, actually making contact. So you had these glaring suspects that looked really prime for the job. And yet, you had a guy like Richard Allen that went and basically said that he was the guy on the bridge and it was overlooked because of everything else that was going on. That's another possibility here when it comes to this case. Is it possible that, something that maybe someone said didn't jive once all the evidence came in?
Dan, I don't know what your experience is conducting. I mean, I know you have past LE experience. I don't know how much you've worked on like cases that have thousands and thousands of tips that are just pouring in from across the world. And I'm curious what you think about that. Like working that kind of case, that has to be insane. And the ease of missing something.
Oh yeah, it definitely 100%. That's why, like, for instance, in the Jack and Lily case, I've heard of some of the tips that have been put into that case. Like, for instance, if Daniel Martell apparently changes his profile picture, a slew of tips come in, and I'm just like, why are you doing that? Like, you're making it harder for the real tips to come to the surface. And I use Richard Allen as an example of that. Like, because somebody just wants to tip in whatever, it can actually be a hindrance into the investigation. That's kind of why, like, law enforcement, and I get their point, why they may not like, for instance, YouTubers and sleuths online, with a following, is because even if they get it right, sometimes they're putting out information that they shouldn't be, and or also they're creating so much more tips that are coming in off of the same stuff that they're playing catch up and they're behind. Things get lost, things get overwritten, stuff like that. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword, because the media and like social media and stuff, they've done great things to help solve cases. Gabby Petito's is a case in general that did that. It's because of YouTubers and because of the help of sleuths and people out there that they were able to find her and find justice. Well, maybe not necessarily find justice, but force the guy into the woods and create justice. And so, yeah, 100%. It's a double-edged sword.
For sure. I agree with that.
Let's go ahead.
I'll just say the hardest thing from the perspective of a YouTuber who tries to actually like looking for evidence. And when you think you found something, you always will question yourself, like, is this important enough to bother the TBI with? If you think you've come across something important. And a lot of times, because they've gotten thousands of tips like that, you almost don't want to bother them and just don't even put in any tips.
Yeah.
So it's like a double-edged sword. You don't know when you should, and you don't know when you shouldn't,
I think it's better to lie on I think it's better to give the tips and then let them sort it out type thing.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to people if they see something to put something out there. What I'm opposed to is like the baseless tips, just to tip something,
Like I saw in my live, da 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 da.
Yes.
That type of thing. I see.
Yeah.
I heard on YouTube that that they've gotten a lot of those, unfortunately.
Yeah, like it's those type, like somebody in the live chat said that they knew somebody who knew someone who was related to somebody else. Yeah, those things are crazy. Let's continue this.
Oh, the extended cab?
Yeah, I guess it was 13.
It was that morning?
Yeah.
That afternoon, did anybody see?
No, because where we're from North Town area that way, they give us drive time. At that time, we was waiting 3:30 of the day. So we didn't know nothing about it until we come back to work the next morning.
So you said something about some drive time, and that this, was about 3:30 in the day. That was around the time that Summer and Candace apparently got home. Is that correct?
I missed the time. What was the time you referenced?
About 3:30.
Yeah, 3:15-ish is when they supposedly got home. Yep.
Yeah, I this thing is hard to hear. I apologize.
It is.
Wait, I'm going to turn my picture off just so I could put my face all the way up so I could look.
All right.
Do you guys know a Fred Hill, Jamie Killian? Any of those names ring a bell? Definitely a John. Well, do you know Don Wells or not? Okay. He's blaming so these guys over here don't know him either.
No. It was actually outage that day. I worked the repairs of the beard. He was one working over there most of the day.
So you said there was an outage out that day, but I've heard conflicting stories about that as well, that there wasn't an outage. And then I heard that they were out there to trim the trees to prevent an outage. And then that Ryan here got fired because he created an issue when he ran into a line, which Randy, yeah. Randy created an issue because he ran into a line. But that wouldn't be why he was out there already. That's an issue during the fact. So do you know, was there an outage out there that time?
I have not heard that, although when he cut the line, I'm sure it caused an outage. So probably, but yeah, I don't think that's not what they were out there trimming the trees for the power lines. I mean, that was the main reason they were out there. 100%.
Yeah. And yeah, some of it's hard to hear, but I heard that part. Let's continue.
I think it was like later part, like afternoon she was over there.
So your guys' work crew saw Summer the morning.
Yeah, I was over there like 5. That's before you started, wasn't it? No, I worked that out. When he hit that guy, at the same day.
So, I didn't think it was Davey Tree Service. I thought it was some. I thought it was like a.
So they said it was a guide wire that was hit, and this was the same day, and it was in the morning when they saw Summer.
And who are these ladies in the audio?
They're YouTubers that were investigating Summer's disappearance. And they're from the area. They saw some tree trimmers. They decided to go talk to them.
Sorry, she's not. She's from Indiana. She came down.
Okay.
She came down multiple times. She talked to me.
My bad.
Yep, it's okay.
So yeah, she's now. They talked about Fred Hill. She's now married to Fred Hill, and
sorry, her reaction.
yeah,
Yes, a YouTuber who interviewed him, Fred Hill, down the road about the case that he lived on the same road as the girl who disappeared. They eventually got married. I'm curious on your take on that, Dr. Vona.
Do you know what that reminds me of? Do you remember with the Sebastian Rogers case, the dad winds up like dating a girl from or whatever, and something with YouTube? I don't know. So I guess that's not totally. I think when people are working on something and they have a bond with someone, even if it's just Summer or that both of them, like he lives near there, she's there investigating. Yes, the T-Rev thing. That's exactly what it was. That's right. And that's what, right. So I don't think that it's abnormal for those things to happen. Like even didn't like JLR meet up with his girl that way. So this stuff does happen. However, I would like to know, like, how did that happen? Like, did she interview him?
Oh, she did. And there's an interview out there. I don't buy it. I don't buy it whatsoever. So she pulls up and he just so happens to be outside, and she's like, you Fred Hill? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, you're the person I'm here to talk to. I'm going to interview you. And he's like, all right, let's interview. And this is the first time they've ever met. Nothing. And he's like, yeah, come on up. And I guess a dog is like jumping around. So he gets onto the dog and stuff. I was like, man, that's the most set up fake.
Dan, you were the first person you're the first person I've ever talked to and it's interesting because of your background and body language, kind of some psychology too, as far as what cops look for. And I've never heard anyone say they suspected that encounter as being set up. That really, I was curious what aspects of it made it feel to you like it was a setup scenario specifically.
Because she was making it seem like it was happenstance, and his voice was kind of like, what? Like we set this up almost. Like, and
really?
Yeah, like I kind of captured that in his voice. It did not come off to me at all. I mean, is it possible that he just saw an attractive lady to him, and he's like, hey, look, she wants to talk to me. And
I swear, I was just going to say, being a female, it is not uncommon for us to walk by, and somebody be like, hey, especially if it's like, if you don't see, like, you haven't seen this person before. And so what I was going to say, could it have been something like that?
It could have, but she says in this interview here that she's been reaching out to him, trying to get a hold of him so that she can interview him, and that he's dodging her messages and things of that nature. And so she's reaching
a stretch.
Yeah.
It's I don't know.
I don't know what Fred looks like though too. So they might be like good for each other. I don't know.
But to me, when I was watching it, that's the first thing I was like, man, this is bad acting. This is bad acting.
That's interesting.
Especially because if he was catcalling in some sense and she was retelling the story, he would have been more likely to be like, oh yeah. And she was like, you said that he kind of was like, wait, what type, reaction. So that would be.
It just didn't come off to me as authentic.
She probably knew how she might be looked at in like on social media for it. So she was probably just like in the moment trying to make it seem like so that she wasn't saying like, oh, I've been trying to reach him forever, and then I came down here and he happened to be outside. I mean, my thing is, how many times did she drive past when he wasn't outside?
I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere. People are saying some negative things about the guy. He had apparently like shot a dude in the neck.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah, he shot a guy in the neck, and he was suspected in another disappearance.
No, that's a panty dropper.
And he was selling drugs. You know, in his interview, I was listening to it, and in his interview, he was like, "Man, Don wanted to come hang out with me, and he wanted to hang out and do some drugs and things like that, but I'm not a part of that life." And then, like a few months later, he's like on probation for selling drugs for meth, and I'm just like, "Well, maybe there was a little bit of truth there about, you
We
know,
call
Don
that
going over."
projection. That's
Right,
projection.
exactly. And so, his, you know, I don't think Fred Hill. I don't know if Fred Hill did anything or not. You know, to me, if it's somebody like that from the area or whatnot, um, I thought that there's a possibility there that Candace was having an affair, and that maybe perhaps if
With
she was,
who?
With
well,
who?
so
Oh, spill the beans, Dan. You
Chris
gotta spill the
McDonough,
beans now.
right? Chris McDonough goes out on a, he goes out and tours the house, right? And when he's touring the house, he goes into the bottom, into the basement. Summer's the only person there. I don't know if Don's at work. I'm assuming he's at work. I know a lot of people are saying he may have left. He may have fled when they got there. I think Chris would have picked up on somebody taking off, or hearing a car take off, or whatever the case may be. But
Yeah, but that could have been for anything. That could have been like,
right. But during the day, this is also during the day, he goes downstairs, and Girls Gone Wild is on the television. It's on the tube. Now, there was an incident that had occurred before Summer disappeared where Don gets arrested because he comes home and finds another man with Candace in the house. Now, whether they were doing something or not, I don't know. But Don thought they were, and he got excited and ends up going to jail.
Mm.
And so
I think that was after she disappeared, but you're right about the story.
I thought it was in 2020, October.
You're talking about the Jose scenario, I think.
I don't know. It was on Dr. Phil. They were talking about it on Dr. Phil.
I don't know if they mentioned. Okay, that would have been after she disappeared, probably.
Okay.
It doesn't change the story though.
And so you got the Girls Gone Wild on the television. For one, let's just say that's Don that was watching it. You got this older guy that works a lot.
okay, wait, real quick. Hold on. I have to stop at the Girls Going Wild. I have it on in the background. No, I'm kidding. Is that really that like she wasn't watching like violent corn? You know what I mean? Like,
no, it wasn't porn.
It's Girls
No, it's
Going
not.
Wild. Have you ever seen that? It's not like maybe she was just like in the moment and somebody caught her.
Well, she came home. She was gone. She was outside. I think they ran in. I think Chris McDonough ran into her like at the gas station or something like that.
Could you imagine Christmas dinner rolling up and you have Girls Going Wild on?
Well, that's what happened here. Now, Girls Gone Wild is something that younger guys watch. You know, probably like you would expect teens, boys. I wouldn't expect
And
an
girls,
older guy.
I'm sure.
And I'm sure. But you know, Don seems more like the hustler type. You know, he's watching some more mature stuff, some X-rated things. You know, Girls Gone Wild seems like something you would be showing a younger man if you were
It
grooming.
could be access to though.
Well, I mean, Candace was giving smokes and alcoholic beverages to young boys,
Teenagers, absolutely. Yep, 100%.
To Hunter was one of them,
Yep.
and you know, smokes, alcohol, porn. You know, those are all elements of grooming.
Now that is something that both of you would have background on. Are those always elements of? So when we interviewed the person who lived there for about a year, she said she gave teenagers who came over all the time. Like she was so into teenagers. She liked hanging out with teenagers. And the alcohol thing was always present. Always present.
So I think if I can interject here, I think, and I don't know this to be true, but I will not be surprised if we find out that Candace at some point, if not multiple points, has her own trauma. And it could be like an Arrested Development type thing where something could have happened to her in her late teens, early 20s type things, or just in her teens. And she's like, and again, I'm not making an excuse here. This is an excuse. I'm just trying, you asked, so I'm like trying to explain why somebody might do that. And that kind of would explain Girls Going Wild too, because that's more of like a teen thing. Like You're a
It
little
is.
older. Like you gotta, I don't know, you gotta find something else to watch at that
That's a good
point.
point.
Like Girls Gone Wild isn't even that hot. Like, and not that it's not hot, but I mean, like, it's not anything that I'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
now
Right.
I'd be embarrassed if Chris McDonough came up and I had it on, but I don't know. Other than that, I think it's more, isn't it like an infomercial-ish?
It is, yeah.
It is, but I mean, if you know the whole just flashing, like Truth Exposed says, just flashing boobs.
Mhm.
That's something that a younger person would get really excited about. And you know, if she has that on going on, it's not like her sons weren't in the house anymore. They already been picked up. They were taken up by CPS, and so she was, from what I understand, it seemed like alone. And so I thought to myself, you know, is that the reason why she doesn't want to talk about who may or may not have come in and out of the house because they may have been underage and that implicates her into something else? You know, Chris McDonough says that he was talking to her and that she was snot coming out of her face and said something to the effect, I think God is punishing me. You know, to me, it almost like I wasn't there. So Chris McDonough was, he thinks that she was about to confess to having something to have done with, you know, Summer's disappearance. He's probably right. I mean, he's got way more experience than I do in investigating anything and everything and talking with criminals. However, to me, it just kind of seemed like part of the punishment was that Summer was gone. And so punishment meaning she did something and it caused Summer to no longer be there, not necessarily her doing something to Summer. And so, you know, Dawn talks religiously. They have a church that they go to. You know, could it have been because maybe perhaps she was stepping outside of the marriage? Is that what she's afraid is what her punishment could be? And then I started thinking about the Girls Gone Wild on the TV, you know, the alcoholic beverages and the smokes to the children or to the teen boys. It kind of all points in a direction that is it possible that she had a relationship with somebody that she cannot speak about because she's afraid of her own possible implications of legal ramifications. And did that person, you know, come over and, you know, maybe under the influence of something or whatever, saw Summer and something happened.
You know what? You know, when you say about Daniel Martell and you're like, James, he just like he wasn't thinking all that. I don't think Candace was thinking all that. Like, so, I mean, maybe she might have known that it would, if anything, I think more that she would be afraid of what it would look like to everyone as opposed to like, oh my gosh, I might get in trouble by the police. I almost feel like this seems like that was already a thing.
So Dr. Vona, you just hit a nail right there, because here's the thing, and this is, I've never understood this, and maybe you can give some insight on this, is the whole thing happened the day before. They went all over the place with Hunter and Summer and Grandis. They went to the hospital. They went to all these places. They bring Hunter home. Summer disappears. The TBI is now investigating. They're interviewing Candace. They're giving the parents polygraph tests. They're interviewing Hunter. After they interviewed Hunter, she went to Hunter and she said, this was her primary concern. She said, you didn't tell them about the alcohol at the swimming hole, did you? And her daughter was missing. Her primary concern was, you didn't tell them about the alcohol. Like. Right?
And wait, so is there like, would she be afraid of like what his parents might think of her too?
But her child is missing. Don't you
I
think?
know,
Like,
but I'm saying, so
yeah.
That's not normal for us. But I'm saying, like, that's what it sounded like more to me. I feel like we're dealing with like an arrested development here, and we're seeing intergenerational transmission of trauma. And who knows? I wonder what her relationship was like with Summer. Why was Summer's haircut? Why was her haircut?
Nobody. So there's been two camps. Some people say, well, that's normal around there. They do it for lice, apparently. Sometimes.
In my opinion, it's to make her not look like a little girl.
Why do you think that would be?
Either to make her less attractive to someone else.
Mm.
Right.
Well, then that would mean that they're aware of somebody in the area who.
No, this is the thing. If you have like trauma, especially like sexual trauma, your perception's your reality, even if it's not real. So she could have, somebody saying jealousy, stuff like that. So there could have been something going on in her own head, because I doubt she went and got like, trauma therapy.
No.
And I'm not even saying that being disrespectful. Like I haven't. So in that case, she's probably like, if you don't work through that, it doesn't usually leave. Like it usually keeps like showing itself, and then it might show itself in the kid somehow.
Candace's hair was short too. Was it short during the time of the disappearance as well?
Semi-short. I mean, it's kind of like it's a bob cut kind of deal. But the way they cut Summer, I mean, it was like shaved. You know what I mean? And what Dr. Vona just said, you don't understand. Like, I've been so interested in the psychology with this family, and the fact that there's claims that Dawn and Summer, he'll tell you he loved this little girl so much. But there's a lot of people who have seen, like, it was inappropriate. Was there this closeness that was almost like too? And they said they showered together, completely naked. That's another story out there.
Wait, with the kid?
Yes, yeah. And a lot of people say that that's normal. Yeah, like people do that with their younger.
No, that is not normal, you guys. No, it's not. You should not see old balls while you're getting a bath.
Yeah. So
that is not normal.
So what you're talking about, as you're talking, everything I've heard is just piling up in my head, because there's this element of maybe inappropriateness on that side of the family. And then you've got Candace, who has these issues that you're talking about, the arrested development and possibly jealousy. And when you mentioned shaving the head to make her feel less attractive to someone, that hit me. Like, that was like, wow, maybe that's what it was.
That sounds like it could be.
It's a bad situation, I mean, they took care of the kids.
They were getting a shower. I can't get past that yet.
Yeah,
I know.
Like, I saw a family photo.
Yeah.
Did the boys get in there too, like the little boys, or just?
I don't know. From the stories, that's what they. So this shower area, you got to understand their house. Like, it's a stand-up shower.
The dungeon basement.
Yeah, there's no room. They basically, that's how they took their showers. That's how they washed the kids. The kids didn't like to wash, so that's how they would wash. They would just kind of shower together. I don't know. It's a different culture too. I mean, you're talking about the hollers of East Tennessee, where they don't have a whole lot of room in their cramped up house with clutter everywhere. So
that sounds like an excuse. Let me be honest. Like, this is my thing. What's the difference if you take a 6-minute shower together, or 3 minutes one person, 3 minutes another? So I'm not saying you, I'm saying them. Like, if if they try to explain that away, that doesn't even make sense, right? If anything, all it does is traumatize somebody. Daniel, you have a daughter. Like, could you imagine just being like, come on, babe, let's all get in the shower? Like, that just doesn't even seem like, I don't know. I don't care where I live. I don't know that I'd be able to. I don't know that would feel normal to me.
I agree. I agree with you, because like I had 2 daughters, and when they were really little, sometimes we do like the whole fun bath time thing with toys. I'm not going to get in there without a swimsuit or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right.
So it did feel weird. That story was like,
and it would be one thing if like the kids are in the bath or something, but this is like the adults with the kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I've heard that story too. I've heard that story going around that he took showers with her and stuff. I haven't. Is that like on a? Did he report that like on a podcast that he did?
Oh man, where was that? They've done so many. So some people are saying it's not true. I've heard them on different interviews. This has been a thing that's just been known by everyone. We've got people saying it's not true in the chat. So,
I hope not.
Yeah, the one thing that really did concern me.
Well, real quick, if it is true, then like the reason, because people are saying like I've had to do this or that. The thing is, how old was the kid again? How old was Summer?
4 at the time, 4 to 5. Yeah.
Like
someone is saying
that's not like a little kid where you're just trying to like everybody came home from the beach and we're like this is like if that is the case.
It came from a witness who had lived there, Jose. He's the one who spoke of it. He's the one who said he witnessed it. That's where it came from. So, and he was
who's Jose?
See, that's the thing. He was from other people could tell more about Jose because I didn't really dig into that story, but I know he came down from, was it New York, stayed there a little while. He was the one that Don heard was staying there when Don was like out in Utah, so he raced home because he was upset that some dude was staying at the house, and he stayed there for a while they were all there, and he's the one who said he witnessed this. I don't know if he's reliable, but that's
So
where it came
real
from.
quick, Shaw Woman said, poor people do what they can. Sometimes this means sharing bathwater. Shaw Woman, I lived in a row home my entire life. I don't know if it looks like I have like all the things, but I didn't. I get this. I get that. Like, I get that. My thing is, what's the difference? Let's say you're sharing the bathwater. What's the difference? Instead of spending 4 minutes and we all do it together, to have the one kid go in, take 2 minutes, get out, the next kid gets in, takes 2 minutes. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can at some point, I don't know. My thing is like, especially for a little girl with her dad, that just doesn't sit right with me. That's all.
I agree with you.
I've never heard anything great coming out of that, is what I'm saying.
Neither have I. It sounds pretty weird, and if it is true, then that's odd. If it, I don't think it would be weird if it was Candace that was showering with Summer,
Right.
to get her washed up and cleaned up and things of that nature. But Dawn doing that it's a little weird. And then, but more so to me, the things that kind of bothered me when it came to Dawn was like, there was an image of him carrying Summer and he's crying. And he says that in that moment, he knew his time was short with Summer.
That was weird.
And that he knew something was going to happen within a short period of time. And then within a few weeks later, she was disappeared. That's the one thing. Yeah, that made my jaw hit the floor. I was like, wow.
I understood it to a point though, Dan. Like, as a father of two girls, I've told people many times, if anything happened to my daughters, that would rip a piece of my heart out. Like, I couldn't live. But to hear him say, I feel like something is going to happen, what? Why would you believe something's going to happen to your daughters? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
no,
it doesn't.
not at all. And Serious Black, real quick, says that she always had that bad feeling about Bella Watts. I just have to address this real quick. With Bella Watts, in my opinion, she had trichotillomania, which is different than in this case. In this case, it would have been cut for her. In the Watts case, in my opinion, Bella was losing her hair, one, due to stress, but due to trichotillomania, which is where it's a hair pulling disorder where you get nervous, and you'll see people sometimes will like curl their, but you keep doing it and it eventually starts to come out and it leaves like bald patches. So that would be the difference, in my opinion.
Could that be why they shaved her hair?
What, that she was, no, I don't think so. I think you, like with Bella Watts, if you saw it,
No, like if Summer was doing that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
could that be why they shaved her head?
In pictures? No, I don't think so. I think no, because you would still like see more. Like if I like you would, it like gets like a bald spot. So no, I don't think so. If anything that I saw on the side so far, like I could see if they thought that ticks or something. Somebody said maybe that. But the only other reason I would think would be for more psychological things, like I was saying before, like to look less feminine for whatever reason.
Now, going back to Dawn, kind of one of the things that like that I've kind of subscribed to before in the past is like when people have had like a gut feeling about something or a bad feeling, it's because they've picked up on certain things. They may have look past it like, oh, that's nothing, but subconsciously it's stuck into their head. And you look at the situation that they were in. Dawn was always gone, according to him, with work and stuff. There's some people in the area that maybe perhaps are on drugs, sold drugs, that can present its own set of dangers, whether it's not necessarily like a kidnapping situation, but somebody under the influence of something driving a vehicle could cause a situation or run over somebody or something like that. Do you think that maybe perhaps, Dr. Von, I'll ask you this, do you think that maybe perhaps he was seeing the dangers from his area and that was manifesting his bad feelings of something that could occur?
Daniel, let me be completely honest. When you were saying the last thing, I was hoping that you weren't going to ask me a question because I got like a little bit ADHD into the chat over here looking at what people were saying. I will just say that just as many people are saying that the shower thing did happen. And somebody went as far as to say that it's on the Chris McDonough interview with Don Wells, that Don Wells says it himself.
Interesting. And so to repeat what I said, no problem. What I had said was that, I've subscribed to the thought that when folks have had like a bad feeling in their gut or a bad feeling in general, it may be because they have seen certain things happen and they've set it to the side like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. But subconsciously, they still withheld that information. And that is what is manifesting this negative feeling or this bad feeling. And when you look at Don's situation, you had a scenario where you have him living not in the best place. He's gone at work all the time. There's not the most law-abiding citizens that are living in the area around him. They may be selling, maybe using drugs, and not necessarily the thought of maybe perhaps that somebody's going to go and physically take Summer, but somebody under the influence of something may run over Summer or one of the kids because they're driving around under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Could that have manufactured this feeling of something negative going to happen to Summer prior to her disappearance?
Well, Dan, add on top of that, and this is for you, Dr. Vona, because I think once you have the big picture of what was happening during this time frame, I think it's probably it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what happened, but the what you just said earlier with, again, the cutting the hair to make her less attractive for someone. The day before Summer disappeared, this is probably the most important piece, and it aligns with what Dan was just saying, that something bad was going to happen. The day before Summer disappeared, CPS showed up at the house. They were doing an investigation the day before Summer disappeared. So the parents were alerted to CPS being interested in their family, and the next day Summer disappears. So now put those things together. Right?
There's so many different ways that could go, right? Like, one, the fact that CPS was called or that they came out. Does anybody know who called or why?
Nobody knows who called.
And we don't know what the allegation was.
Well, actually, I've heard. What's that? We do now. Actually, we do, because years later, so that was 2021-ish. Last year, CPS. So the boys were taken out of the home. They were put up for adoption. Last year, 2 of the boys were adopted. 1 was going up for adoption. And then all of a sudden, the court decided, the CPS withdrew their substantiated claim. They said, we're dropping it. They dropped it all out of the blue. It was insane. Like, I couldn't believe this happened.
So where are the boys now?
That 2 are adopted. 1 is still up for adoption, and I don't.
But they're not with them.
They're not with them.
So that also says something to me, right? Like, I think it's terrible, but there are plenty of people who have missing children who don't lose custody of their children. So there's something that says to me that that CPS worker probably weighed in on the condition she saw, or he, or whatever, whatever that case may be. But there's got to be a reason that the parents weren't able to prove themselves and win them back at this rate. Like, in other words, they want to keep kids with their parents, even in a poor environment, because believe it or not, as you grow up, it's actually more important to have that relationship, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'm saying is, what did they see that made a judge pull the kids and now allow them to be adopted?
Well, I think they were adopted before they dropped the charge or dropped the investigation. But I wonder, to your point, they want kids with their parents. I wonder if the kids had a say in this. Did the kids have a say and say that they didn't want to go back to the parents?
Oh, good question. Wow. Very early teens, not even teens. Other people in the chat will know the exact age of the kids at this point. They were
older than Summer.
They were all older than Summer. Yes.
Then they probably know stuff that none of us know, and hopefully they've gotten the help that they've needed and these new families make them feel safe. I hope they all still stay in contact with each other, the kids, I mean, because that would be important. But sometimes we see that the kids don't stay in contact just for the sheer fact that it's a trauma bond that you don't want to relive. So again, that could go multiple ways. But the fact that they have a say because they are older tells me that they feel safer or don't want to go back to that environment, whatever that environment was.
I will tell you, and I don't think I've said this publicly, but it came out. I saw the letter myself. Someone close to them sent me the letter. I know for a fact that at least 2 of the boys had made some claims, and it was the reason why the court proceeding took place. And I was expecting when this came out that the boys had made these claims, that inappropriate things were happening. Yes, against, I don't know specific parent. I just know that they made claims
Against right? Okay.
Against the other parent. I don't know which. Actually, both got the claims against them. So the letters went to both parents, and then suddenly it got dropped. So what you were saying earlier about the kids, whether they had input into whether they wanted to go back home, I'm pretty confident that the fact that they are the ones that made those claims, that they didn't want to go back home.
No, so, and they would be claims that are large enough not to go back home.
Right. But it got dropped. So now Dawn and Candace are saying we're innocent. That's not true.
That's what I hate about that. But sometimes, unfortunately, it gets dropped because if you put yourself in the kid's situation, again, even though they might want to get adopted and stuff, it's like people have heard of like Stockholm syndrome. Like you still love your parent. So they probably don't want to testify against their parent, even though they don't want to live with them. It's cognitive dissonance. I love you, but I don't like you at all at the same time. But to a young boy, especially if he's still in treatment of some sort, or if they think that for some reason, now there are states where you could like testify in like a different chamber and they play it via like a video, because you are supposed to see the people if you can, if you accuse somebody of something. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe they just aren't in a place mentally where they feel like the boys, and hopefully they're getting the help that they need so that if something did happen, that they would feel empowered enough to say something, even if it's for them, not just for, finding their sister.
And I should reiterate, because I just said that they made those claims. I should reiterate the letters that came out and the court finding. The parents are able to today say the claim that those claims are unsubstantiated. So not saying they're guilty. So
no, but I think it's important also to note, right, that you have to prove that someone's not proved, but you have to like but a reasonable doubt type thing that somebody's guilty. So if they don't have all of the evidence, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person's innocent. It just means that we don't have enough to necessarily find them guilty with what we have at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But someone in that situation might take that and run with it and be like, see, I told you it was dropped. We're innocent.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important in the timing of it being before her disappearance, because I think if those claims came out after the fact, some may make the claim that the kids were coerced into saying something like that because of the outcome of what occurred with Summer. So this has something that is separate and completely different. It's not like, somebody like Candace and Dawn can't come out and say, hey, well, a therapist was talking to them because of what happened to Summer and put this in their heads because of what happened to Summer.
I have a question. So the boys said this the day before Summer goes missing?
No, see, that's the thing. They didn't say. And I don't know if you have the clip, Dan, of the news interview with Dan and the oldest boy, but he had his hand on that boy's shoulder. That would be awesome if you could show that, because there was this control, Dr. Vona.
Coercive control.
Oh, I got to tell you, if you watch this clip where he's doing the interview, he's got his hand on the shoulder, and watch the boy's face. And you could tell they weren't talking. They didn't talk for a long time. They only started talking, I would say, years later.
That's trauma.
Yeah.
So that their sister also is missing. So that's trauma. But again, for them not to be home and they're old enough now to say, do we have it? No,
I do. I got it.
Good. Awesome. It's crazy.
So this is Don. This is with his son here. And his son is just straight up looking down the entire time. Now, that could be nervousness. That could be, intimidation from the
I was
camera.
going to say that could be don't say or do anything.
That could be that. That could be that.
So when her mother come in, she says, "Where's Summer?"
Can you
She
take
went
the
down,
chat
looked
part down?
close.
Yeah, that's I just say.
She didn't answer, so she went down there and she was gone. So she went out the basement door, which was unlocked, and we haven't seen her since.
This morning, Donald Wells spoke on camera for the first time.
See his expression, the little boy?
I wish they would take that thing off his face.
I know.
Hey.
Why would the dad say this in front of his
Unlikely
kid?
Summer would leave the house.
What's that, Dr. Bona?
Why would the dad even why would he say any of this in front of the kid? Like, I feel like the kid's already traumatized. Why would you? I don't know. I don't know that I would have stopped and talked to a reporter with my son. Like,
He feels
here.
like a prop. He feels like a prop in this. Like, here's my son. Like, he's on our side.
Yeah,
Kind of thing,
which
you know?
tells me that that's so manipulative. Like this poor kid, that's so inappropriate to me.
I was watching some behavioral panelists, body language panelists on this interview, and they made some interesting points that it seemed like they were both supporting each other, like they were each other's anchor, so to speak, during this time. Do you think they're off the mark on that?
I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it again with that in mind.
Let's continue.
That person grabbed her, but we have no idea.
Wells says law enforcement have covered leads on area sex offenders
I
and
wish
drug
they wouldn't
addicts.
cut it.
We're trying to think.
I know.
It brings out. We've covered everything that we can think of already.
Investigators say they have followed up on 85 tips so far. Wells says he is overwhelmed by the massive numbers of personnel on site.
We just really appreciate everybody trying to help that they have, law enforcement and all these volunteers that are here. I've never seen anything like this in my entire life.
And so they brought up the fact that his hand was moving up and
that is a
down and
comforting
things,
gesture.
and so that there was that he was using him as like a anchor or a set of comfort, so to speak.
I don't know that I interpret it that way. If anything, what I did interpret it as like comforting, but not as like an anchor for each other's and how I got it. For me, it seemed more of like a parent thing to do. Like maybe, I don't know though. I don't know Don enough to know, does he have the ability to empathize? I'm not sure. Do you know what I mean? But to me, if it was I think it would be less, in my opinion, an anchor thing and more like maybe knowing that a son feels sad in the moment. I just don't know enough to say for sure, but I wasn't getting that they're like each other's. And if they are, isn't that like emotionally irresponsible to put that on your kid? Like if you're going through your own pain, that kid, you already have enough to deal with in life as a kid. And then your sister's missing, and now you have to be responsible for being the anchor for your parent.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot. It's a lot to put on a child.
So even if that is the case, that's still inappropriate on the adult's part.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. Now, I wanted to bring up this real quick. This is actually from that interview with Fred Hill.
Oh boy,
the very first one.
Yeah.
Just because we were talking about it earlier. So one of the big red flags that made me believe that this was something that was like set up was the fact that she's driving up, recording it to prove that this was just by happenstance instead of actually pulling out the camera when she got there. And so I thought that was interesting. Let's see. And she pulls up to his place. And this doesn't mean anything if they set it up. It's just I think it was set up. But this is that first interview with him.
Isn't Ben Hill beautiful?
If they cleaned up the area, it would be.
I was going to say it actually looks a lot better than Northeast Philadelphia. I'm just kidding. I love Philadelphia. I'm just joking.
I'm scared. No, stay here. Why?
They were some pants.
She took her.
You got the dog. Huh?
She's got her pimp shoes on.
Hey.
Wait, this is the first meeting?
This is the
Yes.
first time they've
So then
ever
we
met.
know that it wasn't a catcall type thing. She clearly went up there to go talk to him.
Yeah.
She knew the
She
address.
just said, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
like I
she's
said,
the one
this
that drives there. And it doesn't look like he lives on a main road. Like, so I feel like she had to be going his
well,
way.
she was definitely going out there to speak to him. I don't think that was the
Who
accident.
knows how many times did she drive by that he wasn't outside? You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know that I believe that this was the first time, maybe, but maybe it's the first time he knows of, because maybe it's the first time he's outside when she's, I don't know. But that is like, I don't know.
She also was
Definitely said
recording
hey.
it on the way up there. And again, there's nothing wrong with it if
No,
they set
but don't
up
make it
and,
seem like right.
it does seem kind of weird that, like, what's the point of doing it that way? But let's continue.
Wait, real quick, Daniel, you're right. So that would mean, how would she know a couple blocks back to put her camera on?
Exactly.
Well, this
That
is
was
Ben Hill. Just to give her the benefit of the doubt, Ben Hill Road is exactly where Summer disappeared. So you'll see a lot of creators. They like to record driving up this road. So it kind of makes sense that she'd start recording.
Well, thank you for telling me that, because I'm not trying to, that puts it more into perspective for me. So if this is the road Summer goes missing on, I could see why somebody might start taping going down that street. But thank you.
She did clearly know his address because she did stop there. And I never really considered that, Dan, that, she knew the address. So she was going to talk to him specifically.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's not like she's driving up and she's like, all right, this is where Summer disappeared. This is where this was happening. We're going to turn around over here and we're going to see the house. Oh, look, there's Fred. Let's go talk to him. That doesn't happen.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. That's a good point.
That's what I would expect to see if this was authentic.
Oh, yes. Was there somebody with her?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there was. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't just, yes, absolutely. You would be like, oh my gosh, is that him?
Yeah. And then let's go talk to him. There he is. That doesn't happen.
Not hey.
Yeah.
And he was at the time, people are saying that he was at the time dating a woman named Laura. So he already had a partner at this time.
No, I don't like that.
Stay in the car. Hi, Poppers. How are you? Are you the one that drove by me the other day while I was standing outside? Yeah. Oh, okay. Are you by chance Fred? Yeah, I'm Fred. Okay.
Are you the one by chance that drove by me the other day?
Are you Fred?
Yeah.
After that.
Are you Fred? Yeah.
If she said, are you Fred first, and then said, you're the one that drove past me, but instead she was like, did you? Or are you? I don't know.
And like, who would remember that the other day? Oh yeah, we did drive by each other. So like to me, this thing screamed like it was set up, which like, again, makes me kind of take things with a grain of salt. Like, all right, what's for the dramatization for consumption of viewership, and what's authentic. So that's the only thing that kind of worries me about it. That's the only thing that worries me about it.
Yep.
Just the man I've been wanting to see.
I don't know that she knew she was going to be on camera with those pants.
Of you, doesn't he? He
Not
likes
really.
to throw you under the bus, doesn't he?
I don't know.
You see, like if you had an issue with like Dawn Wells and somebody comes up to you and there's like all this media and all this stuff that's going on and you're a little bit standoffish and you haven't answered her phone call, and the first thing that someone says, Dawn Wells don't like you, are you like, yeah, no, like, what's up with the sexy voice? Or are you turning around and saying, I don't want to hear this anymore? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. He might be into it. I don't know.
And I'll tell you, if you guys aren't familiar with the type of YouTubers who often followed this case, the reason you only see the ground in her pants is because YouTubers like to go out to Ben Hill, find people to talk to, and they'll hold their camera in record down by their side so that they're kind of secretly recording.
Secretly.
So Fred Hill, I don't think
Note
in
to
this case.
self: if you ever do that, make sure you have on good pants.
Yeah. So Fred didn't know she was, I guess. I don't know what you think, Dan, but I don't think he knew she was recording at this point.
I don't know if he knew she was recording, but I don't think this was by accident.
Is it but people need to also like know the law. I don't know what the law is there, but people need to know you can't just record people everywhere.
Not
That's
in every
true.
state, you're right.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yes.
in Tennessee, it's definitely a single person. As long as you know you're recording, you're allowed.
Okay, then that's good. Okay, good. But
Yeah.
people do need to know that, because what if
Yes.
it wasn't? And then if she posted that, you could be in, like, somebody could get themselves in trouble. Not
Oh,
even
absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So now let's listen to yeah, that was me. Listen to the way he says it.
Under the bus, doesn't
I
he?
don't know. Right off the rip.
Nobody. I've been trying to get a hold of you. Everybody wants to hear from you and what
Get down, Sissy.
what
Get to the house. Go on.
what
Go on.
your
Go. Go. Should jump all over you.
yeah, I don't care. It's okay. Hey, sorry. I wanted to talk to you that time. You passed me. I was too scared to talk.
I ain't nothing like everybody that's on.
No. So you're the infamous Fred that.
Yeah.
So why does Don have such a problem with you?
I had no idea. Because I know a lot, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
You
So
know
what
what
do
I
you
mean?
know?
And, I mean,
I'm investigating.
You know Chris
Just
Donald?
Hold on.
You know Chris Donald? Sandy Christian.
Okay. Oh,
You don't know? Okay.
no, I
see,
just
I
want
don't
to.
know
You don't
hardly
like-
nobody.
I'm not.
I mean, really, I don't get around much. I stay right here and don't hardly travel or nothing.
I came by earlier, but it didn't look like anybody was here. So why?
Well, I was down here
So what
picking
do
up a trailer.
So
I see
so
you.
why do you say you know too much? So what do you know about?
I mean,
So he goes on just to kind of, because we kind of talked about this the last time. He goes on and says a few things that are interesting. One of the things he says, though, is that he knows the person who drives the red truck. Now, he says that the person that drives the red truck is the mother of the person, I believe, that heard the scream, and that they even had a ladder rack on the side. But that's somewhat, those folks aren't the same person as, those that are related to the property on Van Hill. Is that correct?
Which ones? The scream.
Yeah.
Hearer?
Well, are they? Yeah. Are the folks that heard the
Yes.
scream, are they somewhat, do they have a connection to the 3500 block of Van Hill?
So Jody Sue Brown is the one who heard the scream, and her husband or boyfriend at the time was Andy Bernard, and he is a great. Paul Hill is his great uncle. So technically, yes. Yep.
And so,
Fred and him are cousins.
Fred sounds like he was like just happy that he doesn't, like he said, he doesn't seem like he gets out much. So I feel like he doesn't seem like nefarious in any way, at least not yet. Like I feel like he sounds like he's really trying to answer her questions to me at this point.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's some, Fred just comes off as interesting to me as far as like some of his history. He shot somebody in the neck. He was suspected.
Oh, that's that guy. Got you.
Yeah, he was suspected.
This is the panty dropper.
Yeah, he was, he was suspected of somebody else's missing persons. Went to jail for selling drugs, and then also in this interview, apparently Jody Sue, according to him, accuses him of rape.
Oh, that was Jody Sue who made that accusation.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that part. Okay.
Yeah, that's what he says in this interview. That is who accused him of that. So there's a lot of like red flags here. I call him the Bradley Wong of the Jack and Lily case, because Bradley Wong, if you guys aren't familiar, he's a neighbor that has come up with a couple of things in the Jack and Lily case that RCMP had basically said he was lying about. And he has an extensive criminal history as well, involving drugs and theft and things of that nature. And to me, it's like, he looks suspicious, but is the evidence there to back it up that he did something? And the same thing here with
But what
Fred.
does look suspicious look like? Do you know what I mean?
Well, with Fred, he was in the area. He lives close. He's got a history of drugs, and he was accused of possibly pushing a guy down a cliff, and shot another guy in the throat.
So
you know,
Dan is looking at it. I get this. You gotta look. Dan is looking at it like, what's the background of this guy? The law enforcement perspective is if a guy has a history of being
Right.
involved.
Well, the best predictor of future behavior is
Right.
past relevant behavior. I
Yeah,
keep forgetting about the shot in the neck.
That makes sense. The shot in the neck, and I think what is important, Dan, what you just mentioned too, is he was questioned in the unaliving of Cotton Simpson, who fell, and it wasn't proven that he pushed
Oh,
anyone.
he died?
Cotton Simpson, yeah, and there's this whole side story where later on this woman interviews Fred, who later, after this interview, he gets arrested for drugs. He goes to prison, and they're interviewing in a prison interview. Like, she keeps talking to him, and she's recording on YouTube these interviews with Fred. And at one point, Cotton Simpson, this man, died. All right, he was unalived. He fell in Laurel Run Park, and Fred, in one of these interviews, goes, "They found Cotton. They must have found Summer." And so he implicated Cotton in Summer's case in this jailhouse interview. That's actually what drew me into the case, because I spent weeks searching Laurel Run for wherever this dude fell because I thought there was evidence there. So there's this.
Wait, how do we know that he said this? Who tells us this?
So she published an interview with him. It's a jailhouse interview.
So he says this, like you heard it.
He says this. He implied that
little.
Cotton had something to do with Summer. He's the one who implied Cotton had something to do with Summer.
But Cotton isn't alive anymore, right?
Can't defend himself.
But and he's the one that allegedly like people are saying that he threw down the hill. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Oh, well then but wouldn't he have his own motives to say that? Like if he were suspicious, wouldn't you because then you could be like, well, he did it and he's not there to defend himself.
He has implicated.
It sounds like a bad mafia thing. Like you got to take out the witness.
He has implicated so many people in Summer Wells' case. He has pointed the finger at so many people. This guy,
Fred Hill.
Yeah. Fred Hill. Yep.
Yeah, he really has. And like I said, he reminds me a lot of Brad Wong, because Brad Wong's done very similar things. And good thing that we brought that up. There's been an email, and I know the last time we spoke, we weren't sure about it. There was an email that was dated November 13th. It doesn't say what year, but it is from detective that it's investigating Summer Wells. And in the email, it states that because of the timeline, they don't believe that Fred was involved in anything. Now, some people are saying that it's referencing Cotton. Do we know for a fact anything about when that email was sent and if it was related to one case or the other?
Yep. The only thing I can tell you is his sister, Karen, I believe, is the one who had been emailing Detective Pruitt. And she confirmed to several people, including myself and people I know, that she was emailing him related to the Cotton Simpson case. And Pruitt responded related to the Cotton Simpson case, saying they fully investigated him and he has no involvement. People, unfortunately, didn't understand the context of that response, and a lot of us jumped on the fact that, he's saying that Fred's innocent in the Summer Wells case. Well, he wasn't even referencing the Summer Wells case.
But when was this email?
This was very recent. Do you have a copy of it?
I have a picture of it. Let me pull it up. But the one thing that doesn't sit well with me about it, if it was recent, like when did they rule him out as a person of interest in the Cotton thing?
So they did a polygraph on him when he was in prison related to the Cotton Simpson case.
Because he polygraphs. I swear.
Yeah, I know,
I'm sorry. I don't think people.
Well, they're not
should
admissible, right? So
no. Well, right. You can't use them in a court of law for a reason, right? And my thing is, if somebody genuinely has a personality disorder, it's nothing to pass a polygraph test. And most people that do bad things have, not all, but a lot, most. So I feel like when I hear when people are, even we've said this before with other cases, I don't know that a polygraph, for me at least, I feel like I need more personally.
Well, a polygraph test isn't admissible in court to protect the state. It's inadmissible in court to protect the defendant. And I
Yeah.
guarantee you that it would be used in court if the defendant passed it. I
You're right.
guarantee you that
Oh,
would
But
be
it
kidding
brought.
me. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's only not going to be used in court if the defendant failed it.
Yep. And what, like Carrie Moody just pointed out, it ended up being inconclusive. And the reason they gave him the polygraph was because he was talking about the Cotton Simpson case and telling them things that nobody knew publicly about the injury, about where the injury occurred. So they were like, well, we got to give this guy a polygraph. And that's why they gave him the polygraph. But it ended up
If
being
it was inconclusive, that's not innocent.
right. But according to this letter, if this is from Detective Pruitt to the sister of Fred Hill, he's saying that they fully investigated, and this is related to the Cotton Simpson case, from my understanding, and they've ruled him out as a suspect.
See, I saw the Fred Hill sister on a podcast with somebody else, and they're the ones that brought up this email. That's where I screen grabbed this email was from the podcast with Fred Hill's sister, and Fred Hill's sister was claiming that this email had to do with Summer Wells.
What podcast was that?
Oh gosh, I gotta pull it up. This is a while ago, so hopefully it's still in my history.
I don't know what it is, but there's something that makes me feel like this is taking away from looking at Candace.
Interesting.
Well, Candace also, so
not on purpose from him. I'm just saying, like, even like how we're talking about it and stuff. Like, I feel like the most inconsistencies I've seen so far are right at home. I'm not saying that this guy couldn't have knowledge or something to, but I feel like, I don't know. Is it true that Candace's sister also went missing at some point?
That's true.
If we're not talking about intergenerational transmission of trauma.
Yeah, you're right. The focus really should be that, because Rose Bly disappeared years ago. She's got another one that disappeared in the family, and that is crazy.
This case just gets more, I don't know. Oh, I gotta look in. There's like so many characters in this case, like so many people.
There really is. There really is. Gosh, I watch so much stuff.
I don't know,
on YouTube.
Dan, do you think, so you've dug down the rabbit hole of Fred Hill. Do you think it's a distraction? Do you think that all of that stuff, that direction of Fred Hill and his stories, do you feel like that's just a distraction from the truth in Summer's case?
I mean, it could be. It also could be. I mean, he's self-injecting into the case, right? He's going into it. He's implementing himself into the case and continuing to do so. He continues to come out on YouTube channels to talk about it to this day. And so it's one or two things, is he trying to disrupt the case? Does he know something that he doesn't want anybody to find? Or is it because maybe perhaps he just likes the fame? Maybe he likes to be in the spotlight. Maybe he's got a taste for it. His spouse is on YouTube. And so could it be the situation as well?
I think he seems more to me like someone who, and he says it himself, doesn't get around much. And this seems like it brings attention to him, whether good attention or bad attention. Attention's attention, right?
Interesting.
So it seems almost like, and again, I feel like we need to redirect back to the parents, specifically Candace. I feel like there's something she's not. I keep going back to Candace. I see such direct parallels between Candace and Summer.
So, Dr. Verna, you feel like the Fred Hill scenario is more of, hey, here's a guy who just wants attention and it's a distraction from the whole case and the truth.
He almost reminds me of what D.T. Daniel says about Daniel Martell, that he doesn't think he's guilty of anything, but he does have that ego where he does keep doing things to where we all start talking about him again. That's what this feels like.
Wow.
In my opinion, and I could be wrong. This is my first time digging into this. So we could meet next time and I could be like, you guys, I looked into it. But so far, this is my gut. And I'm usually good at this. I'm not good at everything. I am.
Oh man, I'm not seeing, like, there's so much stuff that I've watched on this. I'm going back, I don't know how far. Fake police email.
I'll be honest. When the Paul Hill property search happened, and I've been down the Fred Hill, scenario for a long time. I've been searching that park for like wherever cotton fell, thinking the evidence was hidden in that park somewhere. And when this search came out, the only connection to Fred, and it's also a connection to Andy Bernard, the neighbor, is they're related. But it doesn't make sense to me because it doesn't draw a connection directly to Fred. In my opinion, that whole search draws a connection, which is what Dr. Vaughn is saying, back to Dawn and back to the family and the connections between them, and how are they connected to that property? How do they know those people? You know what I
Look,
mean?
I have a specialization in marriage and family therapy, like on top of my master's. I have a doctor too, but I mean, on top, I specialized in marriage and family therapy. This family unit is dysfunctional in a way that I don't think we've seen in like so far from what I'm seeing, like even more so than we've seen with Jack and Lily, and even in other cases, any other case. I don't know. I don't know. Not that I don't know. I do know. I think that I need to look more into it, I think.
I don't think so. I found this off of Carrie Moody's channel. I don't think this is from, I think this is a clip from a different channel. I think this is
Six Up Media. Yeah.
I think this is who had Fred Hill's sister on, and this is where this came from. That it was Fred Hill's sister who said that this was referencing Summer. I'm gonna press play on this. I'm not sure if this is where it's at. Let's see what they have to say real quick.
That is the only verified context. We do not know whether Karen.
See, I think that's the commentator, not on the. I don't know if they actually played the video itself. Who is this creator up here in the corner there? I'm not familiar with them.
That's Six Up Media.
That Six Up Media. All right,
Yeah.
let me see if
She's
I
the one
can
who
find them.
she first released that email from the sister.
Okay, and so she was the one that was saying that this was about Summer Wells, from what I remember seeing.
I guess in that she is in chat in the original video. She came out after, and I thought it was in the original video too that she said this is actually something that Karen was sending. Karen's the sister was sending to Pruitt related to the Cotton Simpson case, but maybe she made a mistake and actually said earlier on in that video that it was related to Summer. Honestly, between the three of us, Six Up was trying to make the point in that original video that Fred has no relevance to the Summers case. What we talked about earlier, Six Up believes that Fred is simply looking for attention. He's simply making up stories to be relevant in the Summer Wells case when he is not the direction anyone should be looking. Pruitt,
another creator said that?
Yes, and Detective Pruitt has told that to Andy Bernard, the grand cousin of Paul Hill. He's been accused forever by YouTubers as being involved in the Summer Wells case. He called up Pruitt and got a recording from Detective Pruitt, and Detective Pruitt said, "Dude, your name is not relevant to this case." Andy was like, "I'll come in, I'll do a polygraph. You have any questions for me?" And he's like, "You're not relevant to this case, and stop believing anything Fred Hill says. Stop believing anything Fred Hill says." Pruitt's told that to multiple people, which goes back to, I think, what you were saying, Dr. Vona, where I think Fred Hill is just telling stories. He likes feeling like
he said it himself. He said, "I don't get out much." Like you could hear it in his voice when he's talking to that lady.
Now, if Fred Hill hasn't been cleared,
it's Summer's case.
In the Summer case,
right?
He put himself out out and about in that area or after 3 o'clock, didn't he? Didn't he say that he let Andy go by and another truck go by? Wasn't that in front of that area?
He claimed that Andy Bernard was on Ben Hill Road on the 15th around 4 o'clock, 3:15, 4 o'clock. And they've been fighting about that because Andy's like, "I was at work. I don't know what you're talking about, dude." And I went to Andy's boss at Hayworth Tire, and I asked him, was Andy at work all day? And he said, yeah. I said, did you give TBI the tapes? He goes, yeah, I'll never forget it. It's not every day you get TBI coming to your business saying, I want your surveillance tapes. So I confirmed from his boss that he was at work all day. And then he's got the phone call from Pruitt saying, you're not relevant to the case. So for some reason, Fred was making this claim that Andy was on the road on the 15th to implicate Andy. And then later he tries to implicate Cotton Simpson. And he's trying to implicate other people. And I just don't understand why he's doing this. I thought it was because he was guilty, but now I'm starting to think it's just grandstanding. It's just attention seeking. I don't know.
Isn't this the one that marries the?
Yes.
Yeah, the YouTuber.
Yeah, like.
So, now we get talked here recently, Andy, and I'm just calling you everybody's name. Trust me, I started this whole. I'm bad with names. I started a whole controversy because I called the lady named Kim Pam, and it doesn't even sound like it was just by accident in the Brian Koberger case, and I started a controversy that lasted forever. I think it even made mainstream media. That's how bad it was. But we were talking there before about Randy Hill, and you had mentioned that some people had said something to the effect that he may have been nervous about the search, or somebody was nervous about the search, maybe something about a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Have you been able to validate, or what have you heard about that scenario?
That was probably last night. I misspoke. So I shared something that I probably shouldn't have. It's completely unrelated to the search. I heard from his friends that he was nervous about the search for an unrelated issue that happened like years ago of something on the property. It's not related to the Summerwells case. It's just this other thing. But the problem is that people are now claiming that Randy has something to do with Summerwells case because the search happened on this property. He's happened to have inherited. So he's a name showing up on the property. And so is Paul, and so is Randy's son. They're all listed as on that property connected. So they're looking for anything they can possibly look for any name on that property and connect it to Ben Hill Road. Now they've got this video of someone mentioning a Randy as part of the tree trimmers. Mm-hmm. They didn't even say the last name. So I don't know. Can we say it's the same Randy at this point?
I don't think you can say that without, for sure. It sounds like it could be the same Randy. Tree trimmers, same name, same area, that one guy doesn't know his last name, but he recognizes, according to the interview, this Randy recognizes locals from the area. So it kind of jives with the fact that this Randy person probably was local to the area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I assume there's at least one other Randy Hill, because I think he was a junior, wasn't he?
No, there's Randy. Randy's the son of Paul, and then there's the brother who's Frank Hill. So his son is another one.
Gotcha.
You're muted, Dr. Vona.
Carrie Moody's in the chat, and she says I played her clip in that video.
Whose clip?
Yeah, no, I played the clip.
Yes, this clip.
No, I'm saying the Carrie Moody, the one that we just had up on the thing. Yeah. She's in the chat, and she said I played her clip in that video. But I just wanted to shout her out since we just played a video.
Yes.
She also made a good point right there. The property would have also been an easy drop-off site, if you know what I mean. Doesn't have to be any relation to the owners of the property or even their family. And here's the problem with the family. Like I told you, the first thing I did when I heard about this property is look up who owns it and announced it's Paul Hill's property. And then media confirmed it. But then you do have other members of this family who are listed on the property. You've got Randy, you've got his son, you've got down the street. Other people have mentioned the actual Hill tree trimming company. Got a whole bunch of other people there. I've looked at their background. I don't know if you have, Dan, but I've looked at their background. This family, if background matters, like we were talking about Fred in the history, if they have a criminal history, this family's clean, man. Randy's clean. Paul Hill is clean. The best that you can come up with this family is maybe Randy's son, who has like criminal speeding throughout 2020 to 2025. That's the worst you can come up with this family. They don't have a record. They're not bad people. So I don't get it. I just don't get it. Maybe Carrie's right. Maybe somebody slipped onto the property and hid evidence without the family even knowing.
But what kind of tip would lead that? Like that would have to come from somebody knowing that somebody planted evidence on that property.
Agreed.
And if it was just a meetup point, why would they be excavating dirt? To me, this sounds more like they're looking for something buried, or some sort of evidence of something buried, whether that be remains or trophies. If somebody mentioned, oh, there was a box, but if they had something that specific, we probably would have found an arrest by now. If they had something so specific, like a box with a trophy of, an item that belonged to Summer that was buried on the property somewhere, that would be damning, and that would probably lead to an arrest by now.
So I'm curious why you say that. Doesn't it take a while to process? Oh, you don't mean remains. You mean if there's an actual piece of something that would belong to Summer. Because it takes like several weeks to process remains, doesn't it? If they found remains.
Correct. But I mean, yes, and
somebody would have known, wouldn't they?
And I assume they also have her DNA from things and on file. So if they found something, it would be fairly quick to compare the DNA. What takes a while is if you don't have anything to compare it to, and you have to put it into a system, and it's running through the system to try to compare to offenders. But when you have a victim and you have their DNA on file, it's probably a couple of seconds to figure out whether or not.
Okay.
But you have to come across something to test it too. So, but to me, you probably got to go through some, looking for some, I guess, remains, skeletal remains, fragments. I know that a lot of people say that there was like a hog farm on the property, which is going to disclose some evidence, but not all. Hogs don't eat everything, for one. And another thing is they're really messy. And when they eat and stuff, like, other things are going to fall out and they're going to trample over it, and it's going to get buried into the dirt and things like that. And so you have all these different factors that go into it. But if it was something like that as well, it shouldn't take very long, in my opinion, to figure out if they can find, if they do find some remains that are testable, that you can test the DNA to compare, it shouldn't take too long. But I don't know. I'm not a scientist to be able to determine if anything would be like outside of like bones and things like that. Like if they found, like if she was cut up there and blood landed on the dirt at one point, I don't think it would still be usable. Okay. You get what I'm saying? Like, now if they found a piece of bone, that's a different story. Or if they found clothing or hair, that's a different story. But if they cut her up and, not to be graphic or anything, and there was like blood that fell into the ground, I'm not sure if that would still, be, they could still use something like that. You know what I mean? Or that's detectable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they used hogs, then it's true. Like a lot of people have mentioned, hogs will not process teeth, at least the hub teeth in the dirt, and we are getting gruesome. But unfortunately, in this case, from everything, it feels sickening when you think about it, because I do think it's a gruesome case, and I do think when it comes out, people are going to be really upset about what happened to Summer. We've been in the dig into the Cotton Simpson case, we've been hearing some of the most disturbing claims. I talked to the family of Cotton Simpson, and I've heard these. That's why I keep going back to the Fred Hill thing, because I kept on hearing these stories that came from Fred to his friends at the time that related very disturbing things that happened to her. And it matches this scenario, because if they had a hog farm and they wanted to dispose of remains, and they would know the skull, the teeth wouldn't be gotten rid of by hogs. So they would probably do what Dan just suggested, and they would separate the body into different parts to get rid of. And it wouldn't deal with the head and the skull and the teeth in a different manner. But those rumors and that information came from a dude who I think is just grandstanding and telling stories. So I don't know what to believe anymore. And I don't know what they're going to find on that property, if that's true. If they separated that part of the body and they just disposed of the remains themselves. And actually, in that scenario, Dan, if it was not the top part, and they tried to use either a chipper, sorry, and then fed that to hogs, would there be forget if you remove that, I know it's gruesome, but if you remove the head from a body and you try to get rid of remains in that way, do you think they will still find some form of evidence?
Oh yeah, because I mean, hogs are when they're chewing, they don't. A lot of food and a lot of things will fall out, and then they'll trample over it because they're going back. So there's going to be, even if you had hogs there, if they fed them bones and things like that, I would expect to see pieces of bone and things like that embedded into the ground where they trampled on top of it and buried it with their hoofs.
So in the dirt there would be something. They would find it.
Oh yeah. There's no way they would have gotten rid of everything, in my opinion. But then again, I mean, there's Brian Koberger. I didn't think they were gonna look into his car and not find a speck of DNA, and they didn't find anything. It's anything's possible. But in that scenario there, I think that it is unlikely that the hogs would have gotten rid of completely everything. I don't see it.
I want to apologize to chat too. I don't know if you guys know, but this particular case, there are mothers locally who follow this case, and they cry almost every day thinking about it and talking about it. There's a local here who consistently she puts up missing posters on the corner of Beach Creek and Lone Star and Ben Hill. She's out there all the time, and it's almost like this child is her own daughter. So I feel bad talking about these types of details of the case. I could see people in chat kind of feeling really bad about it, but
the problem is that if we don't talk about the uncomfortable things, how will we get to the truth?
Yeah.
So and the thing is that by talking about the uncomfortable things, we are putting Summer in like the forefront. We're all here talking about it. Do you know what I mean? So, and I think that it's absolutely normal for a community, especially if it's like, if there's not like a ton of crime and stuff, or not crime, but like not a ton of like kids that go missing.
Yeah.
But the community really does, especially, if you have children and stuff, that those mothers do feel something. So even for them, I think that it's important that we talk about the uncomfortable things to help find her. You know what I mean?
And you can also rule out some of the things too, some things that are out there, you just by talking it out, and then it can be, some things can be ruled out or deduced based on just being able to talk them out. Now, like in this case here, Dr. Bona, you mentioned, going back to Candace and what, and Ryan, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but what connection would there be with Candace and that property on Van Hill?
I only know a connection with Don. He was given a ride home once when he crashed a Subaru on Van Hill. The owner, Paul Hill, gave him a ride home. That's the only connection I know. So they clearly knew each other. I don't know how close they were, but they definitely knew each other. Candace? Don't know. Actually, I've heard, and this is rumor now, I'm going to go into the rumor mill side of things. I have heard they hung out there, that Summer loved the animals, but that was told to me by a couple locals, and I don't know how true it is. So I know for sure the Don Hill connection to Paul Hill. Don Wells connection to Paul Hill.
Yes. Yeah.
And what was the connection?
When Don crashed his Subaru at one point on Van Hill, Paul Hill had given him a ride home, so they know each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then that would tell me that wouldn't be unlikely even for Candace to know who he is too, because you know what I mean? Like I know people that my
family
husband,
connections. Yeah.
At least I better know who no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I just, to me, it seems like, her locations of the day. I feel like law enforcement would have been at that property a lot earlier if she physically went there and she had either her or her mother's phone with her throughout the day, which law enforcement should have. You know, that's one of the things that when I look at this case, even with like, you know, my thoughts earlier about maybe perhaps Candace having a out of the marriage relationship and somebody coming over, I'm reminded that I'm new to the case, but that doesn't mean that this case is new. This is an older case, and I wonder if law enforcement would have already gone down that avenue and ruled it out one way or another. And if that ended up being the case, you know, I wonder if they would have known if she had a out of marriage relationship, if there would have been some sort of evidence of that. Now, if it was like a neighbor, like Fred Hill, and I'm just saying, not saying that he did, but if it was like just like a neighbor guy that was coming around, behind Don's back and things like that.
Oh, I see where you're going with that.
It may make sense that he doesn't contact her through the phone or things of that nature and just kind of shows up from time to time when Don's not, when he knows that Don's at work. They live close enough together to know that Don's not there, maybe even knows Don's schedule when he goes to work.
I don't know. I don't feel like
those
that
type
one.
of things.
I don't think that's the right one, Daniel. I don't know why I don't feel that. I think if anything, people have said about the didn't you say that they use or whatever? Like I would think if anything, it would probably be something about using. If like he was over more than like I know Girls Gone Wild was on or whatever, Girls Gone Wild was on, but I don't know that it was like a sexual thing. I could be wrong though.
Well, like I mean, even if it was just like using, I mean, who's to say that Candace wasn't, hooking up with her dealer?
Well, we know he was a dealer.
He was?
Yeah,
he was arrested
a dealer.
for it.
And so the plot thickens.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if that's her dealer and maybe perhaps she gets a little bit of a break, if she does a little bit of a this or that.
Anybody know what he was dealing?
Meth.
Meth, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so
real quick, meth eats. I just want to explain why I just said, when I teach about this and we look at the brain and stuff, just so people know, meth eats away at the frontal lobe, and that's the part of the brain for decision making, impulse control, and problem solving. It's the executive functioning part of the brain. And it's one of the only drugs that after you stop using, if you can stop using, because it's that addictive, that your brain doesn't reheal itself. Where like if you get off of like heroin, cocaine, and you do the proper, you take care of yourself, you can, recover a lot of that, but not with meth so much because it eats away at your frontal lobe.
Oh, that's crazy. Wow.
That says a whole lot, the whole meth thing. I don't think I realized that. Meth will make people do some crazy things. I live in the city. We have more like trank here. I don't know if trank's up there yet or whatever, but we do see meth too. And people do things on meth that they would swear that they would have never done before. And it's hard to stay off of because once you get off of it, because it messes with your impulse control, if you see it, let's say you go to someone's house and they're doing it and they're like, here, do you want some? Before you can like put your impulse control in and say, don't do it. You've been clean for 2 decades. A lot of people will do it because they didn't have the impulse control because of the meth use.
How does it impact memories of things?
Oh, oh my gosh, big time. So that's the hippocampus. Oh my gosh, so much so. A lot of drugs do though. You could take Xanax and have your hippocampus or your memories
is it difficult? Oh, distorted. So is it difficulty remembering, or does it actually sort of change what you remember about reality?
It could be both.
Really?
Because this is the thing, the substance, or so if someone's taking meth, it's a central nervous system stimulant. So everything's going to be like their heart's going to be faster. One of the things that comes with that is a lack of sleep. And one of the things that comes with a lack of sleep is delirium. And one of the things that comes with delirium is hearing or seeing things in a distorted way that you might not have perceived them before.
Oh, well, I asked because Six Up just made a good point about Fred's memories. Fred's the one telling these stories, and if he's a meth dealer, probably user, then I don't know how much we can trust the memories that he says he has about things around the case. So that's interesting. That provides some insight into those stories.
Was Candace or Don using that?
I don't know that they used meth
I was gonna say
specifically.
Candace doesn't. They don't look like. And I don't
No,
mean that like no disrespect. I'm not.
no,
That's not like a fat joke. I'm
right.
just saying like they didn't. They don't look like what I usually. I did after I said that I was like, oh, chubby girl over here. I wasn't like trying to make like a chubby girl joke. I just really mean because if you look when people do meth, if you guys look, there's a site for people whenever it's if you just look up meth booking photos, there's sites out there that'll show you within like 2 months what meth does to you. If you don't want to look old, don't do it.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And I don't see that. Like when I look at Candace and Don, like I don't see that meth look. That's why I was asking.
No, you bring up a good point, and people are bringing it up in chat here. I know that people have said Don's drug of choice was Coke. I know Candace was mostly a drinker, heavy drinker. Probably some drugs, but I just don't think meth
So
was a big thing of theirs.
we often see cocaine use with drinking. So somebody will
Oh, wow.
drink and then they'll start to get where they feel inebriated. And then by using cocaine, it pretend offsets it. So you don't think you're drunk anymore, but you still ingested that much alcohol. So then, but somebody might feel like, oh, I'm good now, then go back to the bar or wherever and get more drink.
Wow. Yeah, that
Not
makes sense.
realizing. And so they use it to like sober up in a drinking stupor too. I don't know that that's how it was used here, but you said about Candace drinking, that wouldn't surprise me.
Hey, heavy drinker. People are making the point too. I'm sorry, Dan, but to be fair, yes, Andy Bernard was a local. At the time he sold, they keep saying drugs. It was pot. He was the pot dealer in the neighborhood.
You guys, that is not. I don't know. When I see pot dealers, I'm like, they're trying to be like, what are they? They're not trying to be 100 Like, come on. Most pot dealers are doing it because they're hooking their friends up because they know where to go.
But you gotta understand, there's this whole battle between the Fred supporters and the Andy supporters, and they all hate each other. It's the YouTube thing.
Why?
So just trying to be fair. Yes,
like
he was a
Pro Burger thing.
He was a drug dealer. It was pot.
I'm glad that you said that though, because if somebody would have said that and I didn't know that, I could have assumed that you meant meth or Coke or something.
I know. Yeah, I know.
I'm glad that you said that because there is a distinction for me with that.
So is this just like, the market for bad decisions? You got your meth on one side.
Oh, down the street, you just walk up Ann Hill and you can find your joy of choice, I guess.
There it is. It was the flea market of.
But doesn't that also show what a shame it is that like in America, how much drugs are run rampant and how they do get into communities like this and it winds up destroying the community in so many ways. And it does like a domino effect. So even if Summer was the victim of one of these dominoes dropping, so it might not have been anything where somebody was like, I'm going to get that, like something like that, like where it was like so targeted, but these dominoes, they have an effect. It's like the butterfly effect, right? One thing happens and then other things happen because that happens. Like, and it's just a shame because you see it everywhere. Like there's nowhere anymore that's, that doesn't have, an issue with drugs. I feel like everyone knows someone who's overdosed and passed away from drugs. And it's just a shame.
It's bad. Yeah.
So, and we're getting a little bit long, so I'll got a couple more things and then I'll open it up to you guys if you guys got a few things. But the last thing that I wanted to talk about myself was the PI and his mentioning that PI Jensen mentioning that he doesn't think that Fred was involved. I've looked at a couple of his posts. I think he thinks that there's a possibility that there was a wandering and then an abduction. He looks at the dogs scenting to the driveway, which was down a trail, not like down the driveway to the end of the driveway. It was like a weird trail that cut through and then ended up on the road, which was interesting in my opinion as well. But he mentions that because of the dog scent and things like that, that's what his thoughts are. Has he come out with anything else to validate those opinions?
So Jason, when he first started covering the Summer Wells case, which was, I think, was only last year, my first reaction was, if you look at his cases that he covers, they're all high profile. Kurt Cobain, Marilyn Monroe, like he likes to cover the high. So I'm like, this guy just wants another high profile case. And that at this point, Summer's case is high profile. As he started coming out with stuff and actually doing some, like the brothers tip to me, that was like, okay, this is actually legit. He's getting real tips. When he talked about the dog trail scenario, it did hit to me. It did strike me because I've always, for some reason, deep down, I remember hearing about how the dogs tracked Summer from the house area down to the road, and then it stopped at the road. And we recently have started training our dog, and we went to a seminar, and I thought like an idiot, like, well, it's a road, it's concrete, the dog can't smell on concrete. Well, I found out that's not true. Dogs are trained on like several surfaces. They can even track through water. It's a myth that they can't track through water. So I'm like, no, if she had walked on the road, they would have been able to follow her, which means her trail stopped cold at the road. At the road, something happened at the road. Fast forward to 2025. People have forgotten that only a few weeks ago, TBI came back to Ben Hill before this big search, and they searched down by the road again. They conducted a search down by the road by the guardrail. And now, a few weeks later, they're searching this property. And to me, it's like, why are they so interested on that road area? Did something happen? Was there an accident? Either an accident or an abduction, but something, my gut tells me something happened at the road. So yes, I think Jason Jennings is correct. I think something happened at the road. I don't know how it's connected to this other search, though, this other property.
Yeah. And these dogs are different than, like, for instance, in the Jack and Lily Sullivan disappearance. In the Jack and Lily Sullivan's disappearance, those were open scent dogs looking for a scent that was out of the ordinary. For instance, a human being in the forest where it doesn't belong.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so they're not looking for specific scent. They weren't given like clothing. They smell the clothing, and that's what they're looking for. From what I understand, in this case, it was a specific scent type dog, a bloodhound type dog that was smelling for Summer scent. Is that correct?
I believe they were doing live tracking. Yes, that's my understanding. They were not at the cadaver point at that point. They weren't using HRD. It was live tracking. The one that went down to the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, that kind of leads like which is interesting, right? Because like it brings me back to, was somebody just so happened to be parked right there, right?
Yeah.
That if she wandered off, that by the moment that she gets to the street, that's the moment that she's taken. It's weird.
Right, but the dogs pick up there, and I will say Truth and a few other people were saying that from the very beginning that her scent gets dropped off there. One of the other things that people are saying in relation to that too is, what do you guys think about the fact that the dogs didn't bark? I don't know what that even means, but the dogs didn't bark, and they might bark if they knew. I don't even know. Do they mean like at the house, I guess?
Yeah, they had like, I'm exaggerating, but like 20 dogs. They had an insane number of dogs normally, this family, all the time, and they would bark. When we interviewed the woman who her family member lived there from 2018 to 19, she said these dogs were insane. They would bark at everybody. For some reason, on June 15th, if someone creeped up on that property, the dogs didn't seem to notice. And Don Wells claimed that the dogs had been off somewhere else. You just hit on something that, exactly. You just hit on something that has never made sense about the abduction scenario, someone going up on the property. Dogs not barking, it just doesn't make sense.
That's why I thought that, for instance, I'm
yeah,
playing
Real
something.
Rabbit goes, the dogs are on vacation down to Florida or something, I guess.
So let me pull this up real quick.
Also showing us
I want to show you guys the path that he had taken.
he claims a kidnapper used to abduct his daughter and then disappear without a trace.
Our Erica Lunsford walked that trail with Don Wells and sat face to face with Sheriff Ronnie Lawson in a WVLT exclusive interview.
Now 114 days.
I think this is the right one. I wish I could fast forward.
Unlocked and wide open.
We'd get on them a lot.
Can we put it a tiny bit louder?
You can't do that, but it just, we'd always find it open a lot of times and stuff. And So we tried to control that, but to know, they couldn't control it 100% of the time.
So here he's saying that the door that she had access to get in and out. I know there's been some folks that have said that there was a couch in the way or things of that nature. Don here, at least in this interview, is saying that Summer had the availability of getting in and out of the house.
Yes. Yep.
Dawn Wells tells me Summer was last seen going to the basement to play with her toys. Her 3 older brothers upstairs, her mother and grandmother in the yard facing away from the basement door. And
so I'm glad it's showing this angle here. So here, this camper that's back here is where Candace was at. And so if a vehicle pulled up here, Candace and her mom would have seen it. They would have heard it. The dogs would have been barking. There's a lot of stuff that would have been going on. So I don't believe a vehicle pulled up here.
Or could it be somebody that they knew?
Yes. The dogs didn't bark when there was someone they knew.
Right. But I mean, hearing a vehicle or pull up, if somebody came up in the vehicle, kidnapped her, then they have to get out of there. They have to reverse to not get in front of the camper.
I'm saying, what if the person was familiar to the house?
Right. They could have been. But even if they were familiar to the house, if they drove up in here, how are they getting out of there without driving? I mean, they would have had to have backed into the yard, turned around, or backed up all the way in reverse. To me, that doesn't make any sense.
At work.
We don't know if someone was waiting in the basement or if she come outside here and went to the swing. All we know is she went down the basement.
Wells says he believes someone was lurking at the top of a dog trail, just feet away from the basement door. He says the predator somehow managed to snatch Summer, then raced down the steep hill as she struggled.
I guess you guys want to walk down through here.
The trail was not an easy walk. To get down the rugged hill, Wells and I had to hold on to trees. I struggled not to trip or even fall on tree roots.
I need to slide a little bit.
So the dogs kind of came down this trail here.
Yeah.
It's pretty steep.
Yeah. I didn't know the dogs even had a trail down through here till the police dogs followed it all the way to the road.
Well,
and so that's the other thing too. This wasn't like a dog trail that was like man-made. This is a trail that the dogs would go back and forth. So it was more of a pathway that was created by the dogs' travel, not like a dog trail per se.
So Dan, I don't know if you know, and I should know this, but I don't. If someone is carrying a child, so I know if Summer walked down to the road, say she was chasing her dog or something, the live tracking dogs would absolutely follow her scent. If someone carried her down from the house, do you think they would still be able to catch her scent?
I do. I think they would. I don't have a lot of experience with scent dogs. I do have some friends that do. I'll ask either Nina Glass, who runs San Antonio or SA Texas Search and Rescue. Then I have another friend of mine who was part of the search and rescue for I can't. His first name escapes me, but his last name was Landry. Mysterious disappearance out here in Texas. I can ask them about the specific scent dogs if the person has to be on the ground. Yeah. I don't necessarily think so.
That would be interesting. Interesting to get their take on that.
Mm-hmm.
I would also wonder when it comes to that, like, could somebody could she have gone that way and then have gone back up playing? And do you know what I mean? Like, how do we know that was the last time she walked down?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, she was all over that property, so
that is possible.
Says he overheard authorities say search dogs followed Summer's scent down the trail to the road before losing it. He painted a vivid picture of a kidnapping, telling me a neighbor likely heard Summer scream.
I think whoever grabbed her probably had her mouth covered, and I think she was gasping for air by the time she got down through here somewhere, because our neighbor heard a scream, a really funny scream. I think they just carried her to a vehicle and threw her in there and took her somewhere far away from here.
Hawkins County Sheriff Ronnie Lawson has not publicly commented on specifics of the case until now. I asked Sheriff Lawson about Wells' claims. Did dogs follow Summer's scent down the trail to the main road? The sheriff says yes.
the dogs had a pretty good track for a little while, but then it disappeared. But they lost scent when they come to the road. And sometimes canines, they will lose the scent when it changes different type, whether it maybe went from the gravel to the pavement.
And did a neighbor hear a
So one of the things that bothers me, I mean, I don't know if he's right or not, but it sounds like, I mean, he probably knows more than I do than, about the scent going from one flooring type to another. But one thing that really bothered me about looking at that, and one thing that made me think that the person going there possibly was going there to see Candace, and I strongly doubt that this person was just waiting in the tree line until Summer was by herself in the basement, and then that somehow knew that and made their move. But to park down there, that's almost something somebody might do if they know that they're messing around with somebody married. Might park at the street, go up that random little area so that they don't have to pull in, and so in case Dawn does show up or something, they have a way to get out of there. And it goes and it's right there on the street. So unless, like, for instance, maybe perhaps the tree trimmers were out there in that spot, and Summer heard them, and she got curious and decided to walk down there to see what was happening, and then that's when she met up with the tree trimmer, and she got taken at that point. I think that's possible, but the tree trimmers would have had to have been at that point. What I think is unlikely is that she wandered off, and the very moment that she gets to the street, at that second, there's somebody that's right there willing to abduct her. That seems kind of far-fetched.
I agree with you there's one scenario I don't know if you've considered, and I'm curious your take on it. Both of you actually is, we've driven up and down that road. I've lost count number of times. And if you watch YouTubers try to go up this road, there was one guy who wanted to do a spirit box episode, like where he'd park somewhere and like try to contact Summer's spirit. The dude couldn't park. He goes, there's no place to park over here. On one side is a steep ravine that goes down to the creek. On the right side is a hill that goes up to like Andy Bernard's property. You can't park anywhere near that property, which keeps leading me back into the scenario where if her scent died, it just disappeared at the road, and somebody wasn't parked, then what's the other option? Was someone driving? Was someone driving a little too fast? Was it one of the tree trimmers who was taking off at 3:15, 3:30, and they hit her? Is that a possibility? And just threw her in the back and took off?
Well, if you have some folks that have no criminal record and they're squeaky clean, that could explain a panic move and doing something like that, because it's not like they were doing something illegal.
Wouldn't you be more likely if you have a squeaky clean background?
That's interesting.
To call police?
It depends. I mean, there was that one guy who, I don't know if he had any record on him. I don't think he did, but he was the Amazon driver who backed into a little girl not too long ago, kidnapped her, and then ended up killing her and leaving her in a ditch out of panic.
Wow. Clean record.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I think he just freaked out because I think he was like on his phone while he was pulling in or something like that.
I was going to say there has to be more to that story, and that could be it.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if he wasn't paying attention and he hit a little kid, and it didn't even have to be fatal. It could have just been, it could have been just a scenario where, he backs into her. Now, it would have to be a scenario that doesn't cause blood or those type of things, because that should be findable, especially given the amount of time. It's not like it was days that she'd been missing. You know what I'm saying?
If it's not too fast and her head collided with, let's say, the front bumper, I mean, you don't need a lot of speed to cause severe enough head trauma that doesn't draw blood that causes unaliving, I would think. Right? I mean, that scenario is possible, isn't it?
It's possible, but I don't know. I don't know. I could be wrong. That one, I don't know. I feel like there's so many other things that just seems, what's that, Occam's razor and stuff like that just seems more implausible than the other ones, but it doesn't mean that it can't be true.
Is it the family dynamic and all of that stuff we talked about earlier? It leads you in that direction, doesn't it? It's too many things that line up in the direction, doesn't it? That it's
Well, I mean,
related to the family.
And again, I'm not even saying this, like, let me, just in case anybody just joined or whatever, I'm not saying that I necessarily think that it's something nefarious. I don't even know what happened. But what I'm saying is this goes back to family dynamics, and that the family dynamics, in my opinion, has probably played a role in some way. And again, I don't know enough to say, but it does seem like this keeps going back to Candace and Don.
Yeah.
And it seems to me like, and I don't know if this is true, but it seems like Don is that like coercive control type thing. And if Candace ever has had trauma in the past, it wouldn't be that hard to get her to go along, to get along type thing for it. Like people that have been abused do that often because they don't want rejection and they want things to be okay. So like, I wouldn't be surprised if I don't know, if she was like even a victim of Don's. I'm not saying that doesn't mean that she couldn't be a perpetrator, because you could be. It's unlikely, but you could be. So I just don't know. I feel like this keeps going back to the parents, and the fact that the boys don't live there anymore and they're old enough to say, you're wrong. My parents were great to me. I want to go back right now. Do you know what I mean? Like that says a lot to me too.
I'll tell you, Dan, I'm sorry. What's wild to me is that girl we interviewed who lived on the property. One of the things I asked her, because she told me that there was some abuse there. And we know there was abuse because at some point after Summer disappeared, Candace had reported Dawn for domestic violence.
Oh, she did?
But then she withdrew it. That scenario
happens all the time.
I
It
know.
happens all the time.
And I asked her, I said, do you think she was scared of Dawn? She said, yeah, absolutely. Because she ran away to her apartment once to hide from Dawn. And then I said, do you think in this scenario she would do anything Dawn wanted her to? And she's like, absolutely. Because she's scared of him. So as I'm listening to you talk, I'm like, yeah, things are kind of.
I'm so glad we met tonight. I feel like we're like helping each other a lot here. Like all of us making these connections.
Yeah.
The only problem with Dawn though is that there's video and there's pictures of Summer throughout the day that she disappears. And throughout that time, Dawn claims that he was at work, which was over 50 miles away and over an hour long. Now, he claims he has 7 alibis, and I think a lot of people look at that at a weird way. And I think what he means is that his phone is probably alibying him. The call advance records are probably alibying him. There's probably surveillance in the towns that are leading between his home and where he was at work that may have caught him traveling either back and forth one way or the other. That would have made it unlikely for him to be physically capable of being the person that was responsible for the disappearance at the time. And so for Dawn, that's, to me, if he was involved and he had lied or he was saying that he wasn't there and he was there, for law enforcement, it should be very easy to figure out. And if he was lying about those things, it shouldn't be very difficult to start to build a circumstantial case, even without a body and things of that nature, based on the discrepancies and how bad they are. It's not like he's lying about, oh, I went outside for 15 minutes. In reality, it was 17, or it was 10 minutes when he said it was 15. This is him saying that he was an hour away when he wasn't. And so that's a big difference there. And so for me, Dawn would be the easiest to prove if he had something physically there. Now, could he have had Candace go out and do something? Maybe that's why they had such an elaborate day. They went out to the pool and did all these other things because Candace knew that this was her last day with her. And because they had set up something, maybe. But I just feel like those type of moving parts with those many people involved after this amount of time, it'd be difficult for somebody not to speak up, for not somebody to say something, for there not to be some sort of digital footprint of that, transaction, of that communication, those type of things, especially given the fact that they looked at their phone records and things like that. Now, some folks might say, well, they had burner phones. It's really easy to figure out if they had a burner phone or not. One, if they're in a situation where they don't have a lot of good service and they have to utilize their router or their Wi-Fi for the burner phone, well, that's one way. Plus, there's a financial aspect to the burner phone. You have to either buy minutes or purchase the phone to begin with. And if they went through their financial records, it'd be pretty easy to figure out whether or not they had one.
Daniel, if you had a burner phone and you used your credit card to buy it, like, why wouldn't you use cash to buy a burner phone? Isn't that the whole point?
People aren't smart.
Criminals really aren't smart. You're right about that.
That's how they. Here's the thing: they caught Rex Heuermann in a similar manner. He used cash, but the thing is, at the end of the day, they utilized his cell phone records, his where his locations were, and they matched it to, I think it was a Radio Shack. And then they got the surveillance footage of that. It may not have been a Radio Shack, it may have been somewhere else, but they got the surveillance footage from the store, and they were able to track it back to him purchasing of the burner phone that he would end up use to call the family members of his victims to torment them about the last moments of their family members' lives.
You know what's interesting with all that? So even with Don or whatever, I forget what the point I was just making was. I just had an ADHD moment, you guys. It's late.
It happens all the time.
I teach from 8 to 8, and I didn't get done till 9 tonight, and then jumped right on here. So excuse me. It'll come back to me, whatever it was, I'm sure.
But yeah, so yeah, in the end, I think that there's a lot of ways to prove one way or another if you got something there. When it comes to the parents, now,
yeah, I agree.
They do live like in an area.
Would they tell us? Like, what if they knew that they weren't necessarily being completely honest? So maybe they're being honest, but not completely honest. Is that really?
Well,
they lied by omission. Is that still lying?
They have said early on, like after a few weeks, they said the parents aren't cooperating. So they even said the people involved in this case are causing problems. Like they are jokesters. They went on YouTube all the time after their daughter disappeared, and they partook in the drama.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like they didn't not only did they not cooperate, they distracted in a huge way. But I agree with you, Dan, that you would think there's so much electronic evidence, device tracking. I mean, we know for a fact, we even found out from a clerk down at an Exxon near Kingsport that she was sighted there at 5:30. So like the police have all that information. They have location information. They have cameras from that day. I don't understand why it's taken this long. For the reason that you just said.
It must mean that perhaps, and this is kind of where I sit sometimes, is like, does that mean that maybe perhaps they have something? Oh, Dr. Vona had frozen. That's why she's not.
Yeah.
And she's back. I was like, there's two Dr. Vonas.
There we go. I'm back.
Yes, to me, it just kind of seems like with the parents and stuff like that, there should be enough evidence that law enforcement can find. And here recently, TBI has come forward saying that there's two possibilities. And the two possibilities are that somebody abducted her or she wandered off. They didn't really come out with a third one saying that somebody in the family may have done something.
Yeah.
So, that caught my attention as well. Now I know we're getting kind of long. Is there anything else that you guys want to bring up before we call it a show?
At some point, I would love to get Dr. Vona's take on the Dr. Phil. Have you seen the Dr. Phil interview?
No, I was just going to say, someone just said that there was a Dr. Phil video.
I think to knowing what you know about the background, knowing that what you know about like the family dynamic and the dysfunction like you described, I would love to see your reaction and your impression of that interview.
So sometimes I feel like I do my best work when I'm like, what, like if I see something right there and like for the first time. So maybe we could like do a live again where we like
that would be amazing.
Yeah, segments that you want me to react to.
That would be amazing.
Sound good, Daniel?
Yeah.
You down?
I'm down.
There you go.
We'll get that set up. Yeah, I watched the Dr. Phil. I'm not gonna. I want to get your actual, reaction of it throughout the live reaction of it. So I'm not gonna go into it. But I watched it, and I agree with a lot of Dr. Phil says. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. But it's very insightful, and the same folks that came out that were talking about the body language of Don Wells and his son that we spoke about earlier, they come out in there and talk about some of Summer's reactions, which is a different story than what they have about Dawn. So you might be onto something there, Dr. Vona.
It's so funny. The commenters, like these people would stay on here all night. Like they want to see her reaction right now. And here we are 2.5 hours in.
Yeah.
So if I didn't, I have like finals this week. So I literally am so tired right now. But I will definitely, we can definitely set something up and hopefully everybody will tune in for it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I learned just as much from the people in chat too. So they're just as important, I think, as we all are up here.
They have so much knowledge. A lot of these people have.
What do I say, Daniel? We have the smartest chat on YouTube.
Well, guys, I appreciate everybody joining me tonight. If you want to give a shout out to you guys' channel, that way everybody can follow it. Links are in the description. I'll make sure to put Dr. Vona's back in there. She was a late add-on to the show. And so please let everybody know where they can find you. We'll start off with Brian and then Dr. Vona.
Oh, our channel?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I'm Ryan Finds Truth. You want me to just like put it in chat kind of thing?
Yeah. Or, also like what you have coming up next, that way everybody can know where to find you and what you're going to be showing.
If you are interested in the type of stuff that we do, it's mostly, we have, I guess, 3 main categories of content. We get out there and local missing persons cases based on interviews with the family and researching the cases. We go out to areas that we think, because some of these cases actually get solved by a hunter or a hiker coming across remains. So we try to increase our possibility of coming across remains, and we look for these locations, as well as training our dog and all that kind of stuff. We have drones. We also do mysteries. So like disappearances in Appalachia, things like that. We cover a lot of that kind of stuff. So that's what we're all about. So yeah, if you're interested in that, definitely check out Ryan Finds Truth and subscribe, and we'd love to have you.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I tell people, I don't go jogging because it's the joggers that find the bodies.
I don't go jogging because I work too much.
So make sure you go check out Ryan Finds Truth. This is his channel. It's also linked in the description. And Dr. Vona, for everybody that's tuning in.
Thank you. So everybody come over to also the Minds Behind True Crime with Dr. Vona. To be honest with you guys, I have 11 classes that I teach. So I have to make 11 finals. So the next time I'm on will be within the next day or so. I just don't know exactly when. So it'll probably be after 8. I just don't know what that means. So just look out for it. That's why you have to have your notifications on, because you just never know when I might come and drop a panty drop line. You just don't know.
You don't know. Go check her out. You can check me out at either Drunk Turkey Show or DT Show. You search it and you'll find it. I want to say thank you to Kel for gifting 1 Drunk Turkey Show membership. Sirius Black also gifting a Drunk Turkey Show membership. We have Mitch coming in with their membership for 25 months. Mountain Mama coming in with her membership for 33 months, saying proud to be part of the Turkey family. And Casey coming in with her membership for 12 months. You guys rock. Want to say thank you to the mods. Thank you to the subscribers.
Yes, thank you to the mods.
Yes, thank you.
You guys have done amazing tonight. I'll be back on probably tomorrow night. You won't be disappointed. So like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, y'all. We'll see you then.
Thank
Peace
you.
out.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.